Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the greatest live show of all time. That is right, everybody. Now, today we're going to be doing something that I haven't really dedicated an entire live stream to in a hot minute. And what we're going to be doing, precisely, is a debate. Now, for those of you who are new here, before we get started, I always need to mention the fact that I always make sure to include timestamps in the description below. So if you want to skip around for whatever wacky reason, you're more than welcome to do so. I also format this as a podcast, even though it's a live show. And yeah, without further ado, I guess I'll just sort of explain what the debate is, and then we'll get started. So, long story short, we're just going to be debating on utilitarianism. So I'm going to be taking the position in favor of it. And then Foodshops is going to be taking the position against it. We also intend on having Sinthe as the moderator, but Sinthe has not joined yet, partially because we scheduled it for we scheduled it for 15 minutes from now, and that's what Sinthe agreed to, so that's probably why. And she'll just join whenever, I guess. That being said, I guess we can get started.
Yeah, sure. So, so I'm Foodshops, and my position, I guess, is like I'm not anti-utilitarianism. I'm pretty sure I'm pro-utilitarianism, actually.
You said that you were against it.
I am pro-utilitarianism, but I am specifically for a form of utilitarianism.
That's not what you
if that
said
makes
before
sense.
the debate.
Oh,
Remember?
what the heck?
Remember the DMs? I can read the. Oh my god. This is
Wait,
such an autism. This is such an autism moment. Oh my god.
Wait, hold on.
You
I
said.
want to read it. Wait, I want to read it.
Hold on. I will read it out loud. Okay. Here's what you said.
Okay. Can we take turns
Debate
reading
tomorrow. You can just call in. We can aim for this time. Utilitarianism. The time didn't work because I wanted to be streaming. I literally asked you. Just so we're clear. Hold on. Hold on. Let me read. Yeah. Okay. Just so we're clear, what ethical position will you be defending, or do you not have one? You never responded to that question, so I assumed that the answer is that you don't have one.
Okay. So I am for utilitarianism, but I'm pretty sure I'm for a form of utilitarianism that we will disagree on. Does that make sense?
Okay. Sure. What form of utilitarianism are you in favor of then?
I am generally more on the objective list theory side, but I think that you are for hedonistic.
Yeah, I lean more towards hedonistic utilitarianism. Can you explain? So I guess I'll start with a few questions. I guess I'll first ask you, what does your utilitarianism entail? Just so we're clear.
Well, I think for me,
what does it mean? What does it entail, and why is it logical?
Sure. So I think that in utilitarianism, for viewers who don't really quite know, is to maximize well-being, and good is whenever well-being is maximized, and bad is whenever well-being is not maximized. Whenever it's reduced or not maximized, I guess. And for me, well-being is maximized in terms of preferences. And everybody has their own preference, and everybody has like a comfort zone. For example, I think it's more of a combination of desire and hedonism. For example, let's just say that the truth is tough, right? It's a truth that will ruin your life. And I think that there's a line for me to tell that truth, and for a line for me to not tell that truth. If I tell that truth, I know that I desire the truth, but it will bring a great deal of like emotional pain. However, I think that I still want to know the truth. However, if it surpasses the line of emotional pain, I would prefer not to know the truth. So
And
therefore, for me,
where do you draw this line?
uh, I'm not entirely sure.
But it's
But it's
somewhere.
more like, yeah, somewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise I would have to go to like Loki's wager or something, Yeah.
Okay. And are you a moral relativist, a moral universalist, or are you agnostic on this position?
By moral universal, do you mean like objective morals?
We could go there as well. I'd say
Yeah.
I'm more of like a moral realist. Are you? What about you?
I'm a moral. I get maybe it's the same thing. More objectivist, I guess.
So you okay?
Yeah.
It's similar. Like I believe that that morals are objective. I actually thought that based on what you were saying in your
Mhm.
live stream that you would be more of like a relativist or an anti-realist, if I'm going to be completely honest. So we're in the
Um.
same
Yeah.
page in that regard, I guess.
Yes. Yes. So I have a question because we did disagree on something. You
Mhm.
said that you would be okay with the Goon Machine. All right.
Oh yes,
Um.
the Goon Machine. I
Yeah.
love the Goon Machine.
Okay. For me, I guess. Do you ever have a line where you would go, you know what? I would rather not, know the truth anymore, or not know the truth, right? Because it just feels good.
Um, I mean that's something that I don't know if I would assess that from my perspective because if I'm dealing with like an innate bias for me wanting to know the truth, then my perspective isn't going to be entirely logical. So I think a better example would be if there is any given individual, not me, not you, just some individual
Mm.
that doesn't know the truth, and that truth will cause them more harm than good, then it would be preferable for them to not have that truth if it decreases utility, right? Now,
Hmm.
in terms of the Goon Machine, okay, I want to talk about the Goon Machine.
Yeah.
Why do you believe that the Goon Machine is morally a bad thing?
For me personally, I believe it's a bad thing because if I were to know the truth, I feel as though that I value some degree of hard work in order to get to the good feelings of the Goon Machine.
Why?
And well, for me, it's a desire that I am making progress towards something good, and it's more about the journey than the destination. And
It's
if
more
the
about the journey
destination
than
is
what
like,
is that? So wait, hold on.
yeah, yeah, I can
Why
explain.
is it so? Why is it morally obligatory that hard work leads to pleasure if we're existing in a universe where hard work is not necessary to meet such an end goal?
Uh, because I believe that there is something intrinsically good with hard work, almost. But the thing is that it has to be
Intrinsically,
hard
hold
work
on.
that is.
Intrinsically good by what standard?
Oh, uh, hold on. Well, it's specifically not just hard work, but like if I felt like it was hard work towards achieving some kind of goal that makes me feel good, I feel as though that there is something good about the work that is being
So
put into it, right?
wouldn't that be an example of something you derive pleasure from?
Uh, but the work itself can be hard, right? Like it can be something that is like working out, right? If I were like,
But if you derive pleasure from the satisfaction as a result of the hard work, then that would be an example of you deriving pleasure. The same way that, for instance, if you take a masochist, right, they derive pleasure from pain. It's not an anti-utilitarian position to be a masochist who enjoys experiencing pain. It's just that pleasure is derived from the pain, which then outweighs the pain, right? So the pleasure supersedes the pain in that context, right?
I hmm yeah, I guess so. But the thing is that I feel as though that you can get a lot more pain, right? To eventually get to a place where you can feel good. But the thing is, let's not even talk about feeling good because maybe that's not the best example, right?
Well, we're talking
If
about experiences, right? We're talking about
Yeah,
like good
yeah,
emotions versus
but
bad emotions, good experiences versus bad
sure.
experiences,
So
good
so
qualia versus
maybe
bad qualia, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, sure. So for example, another like a better example would probably be something along the lines of desire, right? Like a person, like a parent, right, would rather their would rather believe that their child is dead when their child is actually alive and happy, right? Versus a parent that is believing that their child is alive when in actuality their child is dead, right? They would rather want the child to be alive. That's the desire, even though in all respects to them, it feels terrible, right?
Um, so I sort of get what you're trying to say here.
Hmm.
Um, I guess the issue is that the reason it would be preferable for them to like, let's say that the child is alive, right? The reason it would be
Yeah.
preferable for them to believe that the child is alive in that case wouldn't be for their own well-being. It would be for the child's well-being, right? In the sense that they would be more likely to be looking for the child if they believe that the child is alive, right? So that would increase the chances of the child being found and remaining alive, right? And that would be a moral good, right? But like but
Well,
hold on, in a vacuum, let's say, where there's a parent, right? And they're the only entity that exists in the entire universe that experiences consciousness. And everyone else is not actually conscious. But this person who is conscious believes that they're conscious. If that's the case, then it would be preferable for them to think that the child is not there or is dead, even if they're alive, if regardless of whether or not they think they're alive or dead, they will never have access to that child again.
Well, sure, regardless of the outside circumstances, I'm just talking about the situation in a vacuum, I guess, right? Because for me, if the parent was going like they would feel bad ad infinitum, right? Because they truly believe on their part that the child is dead. Like they will experience like a misery unlike any other. Sure, like you want to maximize well-being for the like overall, like maybe the child experiences well-being more, but for me it's not a guarantee, right? Like what if the parent experiences even more misery than the child being alive, right? Then in that
Okay,
case,
so
the
let's
good feelings are not
isolate let's
maximized, but the desire is
isolate
maximized.
let's isolate the variables here because you're
Sure.
talking about a lot of things. You're talking about desire versus pleasure slash suffering,
Mhm.
right? So so let's say that the kid doesn't experience consciousness. They're not worth moral consideration in this example, okay? Just to isolate the
Mhm.
variables. So the if we're talking about utility for an individual person, specifically the parent, and if it's the case that no matter what, they will never see their child again, I would argue that in this case, it would be morally preferable for them to believe that the child is dead, even if they are alive, because if they are alive, then there is going to be a prolonged amount of anxiety surrounding that, a prolonged negative experience associated with not being able to find your child, right? Whereas if you think that they're dead, like that's going to be really shitty for some extended period of time, right? But eventually, I don't know if I'd say you get over it, but like it stops affecting you as much, right? Like you're not constantly feeling like shit every day. You're not constantly worrying about them, right? So that would sort of be
Mhm.
my argument there, right? Like
Sure.
if in this example the child isn't worth moral consideration and we're only considering the experience of the parents, right? Like that's what would be the case in terms of maximizing their utility, right? And if we're talking about utility for multiple people, it gets a little bit more complex, but the same line of logic still applies, right?
The thing is like for me, then you're arguing at some point that let's just say what if the parent never gets over it, right? Because there has been scenarios in the past where parents just simply don't get over a child's loss of life.
Then it's going to be the
In
case.
case
Well,
of
hold on. If the original point you were making was about desire conflicting with the actual pleasure versus
feelings
suffering
good, yeah,
experience. So if this
yeah.
is the case, then it would be the case that it would be morally like that there would be no contradiction in terms of the desire versus actual experience of emotions, right? So this doesn't make any sense for what you're trying
No.
to argue, because if you're saying, yeah, well, if you're saying that, well, actually it could be the case that they experience more negative emotions, I would argue, okay, well, if that's the case, then yeah, on the basis of them experiencing more suffering, if this is what leads them to experience more
Well,
suffering,
yeah, that's my point.
then it's going to be the case that yes, that would be the morally worse option, regardless of what their desires are.
Yeah, that's my point. Is that they are experiencing, let's just assume that they are
Wait, then
experiencing more
you would
suffering,
agree.
right?
Well, then you would agree with hedonistic utilitarianism, then, correct?
Well, no, I would not, because again, the desire we want to well-being is dependent on a degree of desire. So for me,
What is
again,
well-being?
I'm just giving a counterexample
No,
to,
what is
like feeling
well-being?
bad,
Can
right?
you define what it means when
Yeah, sure.
when
So,
somebody's well-being is improved, or what that well-being actually is
hmm.
or
so
constitutes?
so so in this case, you want to maximize desire.
You want to maximize desire. And why is
Yep.
that morally good? Is there something
Uh,
that those desires
it's
perhaps lead to?
it's morally okay. It's morally good because to me, you would rather want your child to be alive and happy above all else.
I'm not asking you what you would rather have, right? I'm asking you if you value desire, which don't get me wrong, I do as well, right?
Yeah.
Why is the desire valuable? Perhaps there's some other
Mm,
variable, for instance, that it leads to, something that causes it to be good, something like some sort of positive outcome that people experience, I guess you could say. No?
Um, for me, the positive outcome is the parent's desire for the kid to be alive and happy, right? Like that is what the desire is.
Okay,
No?
but like if it's the case that them believing that let's say in this case, again, we're just talking about the individual parent's utility. We're not going to pretend like the kid isn't worth moral consideration because they're a Hassan orbiter, okay? So the kid is a
Okay,
Hassan orbiter.
okay.
So they're not worth moral consideration, okay?
Yeah.
They're gone. And no matter what, they're never coming back. If it's the case that the parent, in the scenario where they believe that the kid is dead, is very sad about that, right?
Mhm.
But eventually they're able to move on with their life. And in the other scenario, they're not able to move on with their life. And they constantly have this never-ending anxiety about their kid. And they experience more negative emotions in that scenario as a result of that. Would you still argue that it would still be preferable for them to think that the kid is alive?
No, wait, no. The part that
No.
I value above
Wait,
all
hold
else.
on. You said no. So that would be an
Wait, no,
argument
no, 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 no.
against.
No. Then no, no, no. I mean, like, it doesn't matter to me in either scenario that like the parents, like for me, I would rather the parents like know the truth. I guess that's the first thing.
Why?
But the second thing, well, because I feel as though like if your kids are dead, you would want to know whether or not your kids are dead, right? Like,
Sure, you would want to know that, right?
yeah, that
But
seems like a reasonable ask.
but again, whether or not you want to know something versus actually knowing, it could be the case that you think you know something, right?
I, which is,
That's
I
ultimately what
okay,
determines, again,
yeah. So,
what about the human experience do you think is intrinsically valuable?
uh, that's complicated. I don't know if I can answer that question like at
Okay.
all.
So,
I haven't really thought about it, you know. But the thing is
okay.
that all I
Sure.
know is for most parents.
I can
Hold on,
help
hold
with
on.
that.
That's a question. Okay, wait. For this, right? Like, I think that if it causes the parents a degree of feels bad to the point where they take their own life, then I would probably not want them to know, like, oh yeah, my children are dead, right?
Why do you arbitrarily decide that that's the threshold? Like
Well, because
you've
for
just
me, I'm not
arbitrarily
comfortable with
assigned a
people.
certain threshold. What if they
Well,
suffer significantly more if they believe the untrue version of or sorry, if they believe the correct version of events, um and that just causes way more suffering, as opposed to a situation in which they could be saved from suffering. Why would it be the case then that it would be preferable for them to be in the situation that causes them to experience so much more suffering because it in a situation where it doesn't literally lead to them killing themselves? What
well,
if it
I'm sorry.
almost
Can you rephrase the question? That's a very long phrase.
what if they almost commit suicide but they don't? They only hurt themselves because of it. Like
Ooh.
they only harm themselves, but they don't actually do it.
What's the
Then
harm?
what?
I guess. What's the harm?
Like
Like,
for
what's the
instance,
harm?
if you were to grab a knife and start doing some TOS unfriendly thing with your unfriendly things with your wrists, things that YouTube TOS probably doesn't like. Would
Oh,
that
okay.
surpass your
So
threshold, or would that be an
mm,
acceptable trade-off?
I think that would be acceptable trade-off because I
That would
think
be an
that a good
acceptable
amount.
trade-off. So
Well,
you
well,
would be
yeah.
in
Well, hold
favor.
on. Can I just finish? Wait,
You
I just
believe.
wait.
Hold on.
Wait,
I
let
just want to
me.
make this
I just
clear.
want to give a full
I just
answer.
want to
Okay.
make this clear. So you
Yeah.
believe then that it is a worthwhile trade-off for somebody to learn information, even though that information leads to them literally harming themselves and it's to the benefit of nobody. Why is
Well,
information valuable
you
in the first
hold on, hold
place?
on. You asked so many questions. Can I just answer? Can I just answer?
Sure.
Hold on. I just want to clarify. So, for on my end, right, in a good faith way, I think that obviously if it's wrist cutting, that sucks, you know, but I would rather want them to know that they're, kids, like the truth behind their kids, right? Like that's why a lot of cops tell the parents, "Hey, by the way, your kids are dead," because they feel as though that there is some kind of goodness to letting parents know the truth. I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Now I have a question to ask you, okay, please. So the quick question I want to ask you is, do you feel as though that um a great amount of paying specifically to the parent is worth it for them to know the truth about their kids?
No, I don't think that it's worth that at all.
Wait, clarifying question, like you asked me. So if a parent, so you're saying that even if it deals with them a constant level of moderate feels bad, it's not worth it for them to know the truth about their dead kids?
No, I'm saying that if them not knowing the truth means that they experience less suffering and it just decreases human suffering overall, then that would be the preferable outcome because it decreases human
Mm,
suffering,
okay,
right?
then I disagree, right?
Yeah,
And
but
I think
why do
that's
you
silly.
disagree? Why is that
Sure,
silly?
I'll tell you because it's just simply because more people, especially parents, would prefer to know the truth about their kids, and they
So
want to bear the
do you
pain.
believe that the morality of something is contingent upon what more people want or believe? Do you think it's determined by what a plurality of people deem to be the case?
Well, no, I think that it's
No.
more of a preference. And hold on, hold on,
It's a
hold on.
preference
And I'm sure
now?
you'll agree with me. You'll agree with me on this, right? Because I'm sure that more parents would rather know about the truth of their kids. You see it in every single like true crime scenario case, right? Like all the parents, they want to know what happens to their kids, right?
Well, generally, yes, people are going to want to know the truth. But the reason people want to know the truth is because, generally speaking, it tends to be the case, and it's not always the case, but it tends to be the case that the truth leads to positive outcomes. However, people don't
Wait, like what?
value the hold on, people don't value the truth as much as you're letting on. People say white lies all the time. Why do they do that? Is it morally obligatory for them to always tell the truth? Or could it be the case that sometimes, in order to not make people miserable all the time, that, maybe you say a white lie every now and again?
Sure. So I don't mind white lies,
Why
right?
not?
However, I would
Wouldn't
hold on,
somebody
but
knowing the
the
truth about
hold
whether or
on.
not they're hold on, wouldn't somebody knowing the truth about whether or
I
not
said I
they're
don't mind
fat?
it. I said I don't mind it. I just literally said I don't mind it, right? So I think that, having your kids be missing is on a different level than just a simple little white
Okay, I'm
lie,
not
right?
asking you what the level is, okay? So, I'll ask you what I was going to ask you, which is, but wouldn't it be the case, by your own logic then, that if wouldn't it be better for a fat person to just know the truth, which is that they're fat, rather than not being told that they're fat? I mean, clearly the truth takes precedence over somebody's emotional state, right? You've
Well,
stated this.
how wait, how are you letting them know that they're fat?
How are you? By calling them fat.
Whoa, hold on. But obviously, even though I value them knowing the truth over like the feelings part, I would rather do it a nicer way, right? Like obviously I would go up to a fat person and go like, "Hey, you're a little bit unhealthy, you know?" And sure, they would understand what I mean. I don't think
Yeah,
that you
that doesn't
necessarily have to
sound
call them really
psychotic at
fat,
all.
like,
Yeah, let me
right?
just go to the nearest overweight person down the street and say, "Hey, by the way, dude, you look kind of unhealthy. You might want to
Well, I'm
stop eating.
giving you an example. I just put it as a
Might want
friend,
to
as a
lay
friend,
off
as
the
a friend, as a friend,
McDonald's."
as a friend. So let's just say that you want to tell a close friend that you've been close with for a long time that, hey, by the
What?
way,
They're
I'm
not. They're
worried about your
in this
health.
example, by the way. They're not like obese to the point where it's like a detriment to their health. They're just like kind of chubby. Just
Well,
so we're clear.
if 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 they're just chubby, I would not imagine like me telling them that, right?
Why not?
For
It's the
me,
truth. Wouldn't
well,
you want
because
them to
because
know the
for me,
truth?
well, in that case, I already said that I would value a white lie, right?
Why? I thought you said
Because
that
I already
I
said that
thought you
I would
said that the
value a white
truth,
lie.
but you have previously stated that truth ought to supersede the emotional
No,
well-being of
no,
an
I didn't disagree
individual.
to that. No, sorry, I didn't agree to that at all, right?
But
Because
that's
what
what
I want
why
to
do you
clarify again.
apply?
Hold
It
on,
seems
I want
like
to clarify again. I want to clarify
you're
again. I want to
not
clarify.
capable of applying a
Wait,
consistent
let me
standard.
answer.
You
Just
just
let me answer. Let me
arbitrarily
answer.
decide based on your intuition when you
Look,
apply
hold
different
on.
types of
Let's give
utilitarianism.
Foodshop. It's me.
No,
It's
let
me,
me
your
answer.
mystery moderator. You gotta let Foodshop's answer. Go
All
ahead.
right, yeah.
Okay. Oh, hi, Sinthe.
Hi. Y'all started this late as
So,
fuck. I thought you canceled and never. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I had a blackout at my place, and I was like, I'm too lazy to debate. But okay, yeah. So anyway, um, so I believe that there needs to be a line, right? Like, I would obviously prefer for people to know the truth, but if the truth is so painful to the point where they're like jumping off a cliff, I would rather them to not know the truth, right?
So wait, do
This
you
is
think that
assuming precognition.
wait, do you think that the truth of being uh super or not even super fat, but being fat is so painful that it would lead you to jump off a cliff?
S- So it is like it also depends on your relationship with the person, right? If you are such close friends where you guys share everything with each other, you just want to let them know in a gentle way, hey, by the way, I'm worried about your health, right? But the thing is that
I already
obviously
specified that they're not overweight enough for you to actually worry about their health, but they're overweight, and you can tell that they're overweight, and they're visibly overweight, but it's not like a detriment to their health.
So I would argue it's contingent on, your social standing with the person, right?
So you believe that the morality of an action is contingent upon the social
Well,
ramifications?
it's one of the factors that are put in, right?
You could say that that's like what you do interpersonally, and that's fine. Like sure, like descriptively, that is what people tend to do, right? But that's not what determines the morality of an action.
Okay, so I think in that case, right? If you're saying the hypothesis, hypothetical, okay? If you're saying the hypothetical of specifically, okay, this person would start cutting their wrists if you told them that they're fat, that would probably be a better hypothetical. Would you agree?
Not for what we were arguing. The reason that I brought that up as a specific example was because you set a threshold for somebody ending their own life in the context of if they find out that their child is missing, they find out that they're dead instead of missing, and then that's the truth, right? You set that as the threshold for when it would be preferable for them to not know the truth, right? So that was an example I gave that doesn't meet the threshold.
Sure. So my answer would be that I consider death being such a high bad that we would try to avoid it at all costs, generally, right?
Why is death bad?
Because it's the end of consciousness, and I regard the end of a stream of consciousness to be a bad thing, right?
Why? Why is that a bad thing?
Because it precludes you from maximizing well-being for whatever long that you would be able to live if you didn't end your life.
Okay. And
it robbed you of that opportunity, and I believe opportunity
should
also be a measurement of well-being as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I do agree that killing people is generally a bad thing, right? Like it's usually the case that it's not a very nice thing to do, right? It's a moral bad, right? But you would agree that it's because you're robbing them of something. Now, what is that something? Well, you'd be robbing them of potential good experiences in the future, would you not? You'd be robbing them of human happiness, would you not?
Well, no. Well, yes, but also no.
Yes.
Right? And I'll explain.
No.
Well, I'll explain the nuances, right? So it's yes in the sense of like you are robbing them of potential future happiness. I agree with you there. However, it's no in the sense that, what if the rest of their life is suffering, right? However, even if the rest of their life is suffering, we will never know for sure. So therefore, I still want them to have a continued,
Okay, what if the rest of their life? What if the rest of their life is suffering? So, an example I would give, right, is well, first of all, do you believe that there are any circumstances in the real world in which it's okay to kill an innocent person?
Oh, geez, an innocent person? Oh, yes. So yes, I'll clarify. So if somebody has terminal brain cancer, like level 4 brain cancer, I guess, blastoma, right? Then therefore, if they have like just 3 months left to live and they're still conscious and they choose to die like of their own volition, then yeah, I think that's okay, right?
Why is that okay?
Because for me, I want to be able to value that person's autonomy over choosing something like that. And I think that their autonomy gets stronger the closer they are to death from like a terminal illness.
Why does their autonomy get stronger?
Oh, simply because that I believe that there is goodness in allowing people more autonomy as they are reduced in, stream of consciousness time.
Okay, so what if, for example, there's somebody that gets into a car accident, right? And they are paralyzed from head to toe, and they could be attached to feeding tubes for the rest of their life, right? But they're going to be miserable, right? Do you think that it would be a moral wrongdoing to just sort of, pull the plug?
Oh, are they able to choose?
Let's say yes, they're able to choose. They're asked the question, and they signal with their eyes that yes, they would like the plug to be pulled. Sure, we'll go with that. Because only their eyes can move.
Is there no chance for them to get off the tubes?
There's basically no chance. There's no realistic chance of it happening.
Oh, then I think I would pull the plug.
Why? I thought that because they would be living for another 20 years. Wouldn't they not have enough autonomy yet because they wouldn't be close to the end of their stream of consciousness?
Sure, but at that point, because I know of the specific fact that they will never get off the tubes, I would rather they just like end their stream of consciousness.
Does it perhaps have something to do? Okay, now what if there's somebody that has 20 years to live, or something? Let's say there's like a 60-year-old, right? So it'd be reasonable to assume they have like 20 years left to live. Do you believe it would be ethical to, let's say they're suicidal, would it be ethical to assist their suicide?
They have 20 years to live, and you want to assist with their suicide?
Roughly. They're 60 years old, right? So that would be like, probably like 20 years, right? Like within that sort of range. Would it be? Are
they mentally sound?
I'm not sure. Also, I would say somewhat. They're somewhat mentally sound. You can't know for certain, somewhat. Right?
Okay. Just to be on the safe side, I would rather know for certain, right?
Why
that
not?
They're mentally sound. Like they would need.
Okay, let's say that they're mentally sound. Let's say that they're mentally sound, but they're really depressed.
Oh, and is there any chance for them to get out of the depression?
I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, if they're 60, probably not, right?
Yeah, I totally get that. I think we're right on the line, right? Because I could totally see a case where later on they would become less depressed because, their children has babies and they love seeing their granddaughters or something, right? But on the other side, I can also see the case where, they would not be happy. So
the symmetry breaker. So it seems like the symmetry breaker that you've drawn here, without even realizing it, is whether or not they have the potential to experience happiness.
Well, it's more, even if they felt neutral, right?
Even if they felt neutral.
Yeah.
Well, neutral would obviously also be better than something negative. So
yes,
I'm of the belief that experiencing something neutral is morally equivalent to experiencing nothing at all, right? I'm also of the belief that when it comes to when we make these moral determinations, that it's based on happiness versus suffering, pleasure suffering equation, right?
And neutral is better than sadness, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It seems like you have like a tendency to randomly use different forms of utilitarianism depending on the circumstance. Like there was one instance where you used truth utilitarianism, then you switched over to
opportunity
to preference-based utilitarianism. Then you talked about what's it called?
Hedonic.
I think it's
Yeah.
opportunity or something.
Yeah. Opportunity.
Mhm.
Like something more along the lines of like potential opportunities. And then finally, in an example, you used hedonic utilitarianism. So it's like
Well,
you're not
it's
consistent though. You're using a completely different framework.
yeah,
I guess
which
not completely
which
different.
I
There's some
yeah,
overlap, but
sure.
you're using a
So
different
so there
framework
so
depending on
and what would
depending on what you feel
hold
like
on.
using. That's the problem.
Hold on, Femyoz. So for me, right, it's okay to be using these inconsistent frameworks, right? Because I value different things at different times and everything is case dependent.
Do you
If
believe that the
everything was based
morality of something
on
is contingent upon what you personally value?
I thought that was the whole point. Right?
Is
But
that a
the thing is
yes?
that for me,
Wait,
well,
is that a
yes,
yes?
right? But
So you believe that
yes, but the
morality is
point hold on.
contingent upon what
Wait,
you
wait, wait, wait.
personally
I
deem to be the
answered your question.
case?
Can I ask you a question? Wait, can I ask
Go
you a
for it.
question? Because yeah. So for I want to ask you this question. So let's just say you have a partner who is cheating behind your back. You feel happy
You're
in this
sidetracking. This has nothing to do
relationship.
with what I was saying. So before we get
Well, because
sidetracked, because this is important. No, I'm not going to let you weasel away from this,
okay,
okay?
after no. After I
No.
answer this question,
No,
I want
you
to
can
ask you my
ask me
question.
this later once we address this. So you just admitted just now that your entire system of morality and what you value morally is entirely contingent upon what you think and what you value. And it's entirely relative to that.
Well,
I asked you at the
it's
start of the debate if you were a moral realist, and you said yes. But this is in direct opposition to that.
well, I don't know what moral realism means,
Okay,
right?
do you
But also
believe
another
that
thing.
moral you said that you
Hold on, can I
believe
just
that
say something?
morals are objective, not subjective. Have you changed your mind?
Well, for me, I just want to take back the part
No,
where I say it's
not
like dependent on my like
of
particular set
course
of
you want
values.
to
I
take
would
that
say
back.
it's yeah. So I want to because that was a misspeak, right? So
Mhm.
for me, at least, um, it seems like I value different things at different times.
That's
Everything
what
is,
you value,
case
right? But I'm
dependent.
not
Wait, can
asking
I
what
finish?
you
Can
value.
I finish?
We're talking about
Wait, can I finish?
objective morality, right? It's very
Since
clear that you base your entire system of analysis off of what you personally value. That's why it's inconsistent, is because it's based on what you emotionally feel like using at the time, rather than some actual morally consistent and logical mode of analysis.
well, no, right?
Yes.
Because
Hold on, let me
no,
respond.
no, it's not. You have to let me explain myself, okay? Um, so for me, I find issues with chasing desire alone, and I find issues with feeling good alone. So therefore, it only leaves me with evaluating different things on different basis. I don't believe that maximizing, feels good is that much good in terms of consistency, right? Because I'll give an example. So, what if your partner is cheating on you behind your back? Would you rather know about that, even though it will bring you great pain?
Generally, yes, and let me explain. The reason
So you
is because
agree with
hold
me,
on.
right?
No, because
Okay.
the reason I would want to know is usually when a partner cheats on the other person in a relationship, there's usually some sort of underlying issue with the relationship. So it's going to be the case that whether or not I find out that the other person is cheating on me, that's not going to, like, me not finding out doesn't unfuck up the dynamic of the relationship. Like,
But
if
the,
there,
the, the
you would
dynamics of the
agree,
relationship
hold
isn't
on,
brought into question here.
you would agree that a healthy relationship requires good communication, right? At least to some extent.
Well, sure, yes, but let's just say that
Yes.
you in terms of feelings, you just feel good that you're in the relationship, right?
Temporarily,
Like,
yeah, but that doesn't make the problems that make you feel bad inevitably go away,
yeah, but I'm
right?
not talking about
So
the
if somebody
underlying
cheats on their
problems in the
if so
relationship.
so what you're talking about is a temporary lack of suffering in versus long-term suffering. So it could be the case that you would be not experiencing a higher amount of suffering for a shorter period of time, but long-term, the relationship is not, first of all, yeah, if you don't know, the relationship is still going to have problems that need to be addressed. And if you're not properly communicating with your partner, that's going to decrease utility in the relationship, specifically
the communication is not being brought into question.
What?
The practices of the relationship itself is not being brought into question. It can be totally good practices or bad practices, right? For me, the question is as simple as this.
So basically it's a relate. So hold on. So let me make this clear then. The relationship takes place in a vacuum where whether or not you communicate is completely irrelevant. So that has nothing to do with anything. So it's a vacuum with only you, the partner, and the person the partner is cheating on you with. And if that's the case and it has no impact on the relationship magically somehow, then maybe you could argue then and only then that, okay, maybe then it would be morally permissible. But that's such a non-existent scenario that it's just fucking made up.
That's what a hypothetical is, right? Like I'm giving a hypothetical because I'm curious as to know what your answer is in good faith, right? Because for me, right, I would rather want to know, no matter what, that my partner is cheating on me or not. But I draw the line at me killing myself, right? But I don't think I'll kill myself. So that's why I want to know, right?
Okay,
so for me, even though I am in a perfectly good relationship, I still want to know whether or not my partner is cheating on me, right? But I don't know what your answer is.
If your partner's cheating on you, it's not a perfectly good relationship. There's underlying issues that cause you to not be able to communicate with each other. That's the reason cheating is wrong in the first place, is because you're not able to communicate with each other.
It's a hypothetical. No, it's
so in a hypothetical where humans don't operate, so like again, if you're plugging yourself into the equation,
I'll add a factor. You feel it's a your partner is so good that they're able to pretend to have good communication skills with you in the relationship.
This doesn't make any fucking sense. So they pretend to have good communication skills.
That's what a hypothetical is.
What?
That's what a hypothetical is.
Yeah,
wait,
but
no,
hypotheticals are supposed to.
Right
the
now.
point of a hypothetical is that there's some sort of underlying logic, or some sort of way of isolating certain variables. You're not doing that.
Yeah, and I'm isolating the variable of whether or not the relationship itself is good or not. Because to most people, they still want to know regardless whether or not their partner is cheating on them, no matter how good or bad the relationship is going, or what kind of underlying issues the relationship has. It just does not matter.
Why do you think people want to know whether or not they're being cheated on? Why do you think people want to know that in the first place? What do you think would be the underlying cause of that?
Because in that case, they value the truth.
Why do they value the truth? What does the truth lead to?
Like, the truth, the truth leads to the truth. I don't know what want me to tell you. It's
knowing the truth generally leads to more positive outcomes in terms of a person's well-being, right? So it's going to be the case that if I know, for instance,
right?
No. Like for instance, it could be the case that
for me, well-being is the truth.
What?
But for you, well-being is feeling good. So it does not, in fact, maximize feeling good whatsoever. In fact, after you find out,
usually it does, but it doesn't always, right? So it's going to be the case that there's some sort of like association there. There's like a heavy correlation between something being truthful and leading to positive outcomes in that regard, right? Because you can use the truth as a mechanism through which you produce positive outcomes, right? Like if you don't have like a good perception of reality, you're not going to be able to interact with it in a way that produces the best outcomes, right? That's the value of the truth, though. But like the truth in of itself, in a vacuum, isn't worth anything, right?
But I'll tell you why it's worth something, right? I believe that people out there, and me included, will value like the genuineness of a relationship, right? So for me, if I know for a fact, even beforehand, that I would feel absolutely terrible and depressed for a long period of time that would outlast the relationship length itself and all the feels good that come from the relationship, I would rather know the truth because I value something good about knowing whether or not my partner is cheating on me, right?
Yeah, but there's a difference between thinking you know the truth and actually knowing the truth, right? So, like, you could think that you know the truth and, you know, blissfully be unaware of, let's say that magically somehow there's no other issues with the relationship, and the only issue is the fact that they're cheating, and everything else is magically perfect. If that's the case, they just cheat on you for the sake of cheating, not because they can't communicate.
Yes.
If
Yes.
that's the
So,
case, and you never
Mhm.
find out, again, we're
well,
talking explicitly in a
the whole point
vacuum.
that well, the
If
point is that
if
I
the
am giving a
relationship
choice.
leads
No. You're
to
misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding. The whole point is that you get to choose from the whatever the fuck is that from the perfect. I guess from whatever standpoint that you're able to choose whether or not you are able to know the truth or not. Right? In that case, that's the whole point.
what? So wait, knowing the, hold on, could you
The
repeat that?
truth of your partner cheating, right? Because your partner is actually cheating behind your back. And even if everything was going well, I would rather want my partner to like I'm sorry. I would rather want to know the truth behind my partner, right? Cheating on me.
Well,
Even if everything is
yes.
going well.
Well, yeah, because you obviously want to feel like the relationship is genuine, right? But that feeling of genuineness is still a feeling. You feel like it's genuine. And
Well, it's
anything,
a
hold
feeling,
on,
but it's not necessarily a good feeling, right?
anything that threatens that level of genuineness in your connection with that person is obviously going to be undesirable because it leads to negative outcomes emotionally.
No, sometimes the
Yes.
truth hurts, right?
Yes.
And
But
that
again, this is why I
feeling
make
bad
hold on, this is why
is
I make the
bad.
distinction between a perception of truth versus truth in actuality, right? All
Well, I
you
want to know
really
truth in
need is
actuality
the
because we know what the truth in actuality is, right?
but again, what you deem to be the truth in actuality isn't always the truth in actuality. It's merely your perception of it. All you have to go off of is your own perception of the truth. So you might think that you have the truth in actuality when you don't, right?
No, we're talking about like from the perspective of like, would you rather want to know whether or not your partner's cheating on you? It's not about the perception. It's about the actuality. I don't know why you're going to the perception part.
If
Well,
we're
I think
talking
that
about,
well,
go on.
just to clarify, maybe bridge this gap so that we can make some more progress.
Yeah, I'm a bit
I think
confused.
that Femyoz is just saying that like the considerations you have for this, it seems like you're just arguing that it's like a preference you have, like you would prefer this to be the case. So it's still going to be encapsulatable into some form of utilitarianism. Is that correct, Femyoz? Is that the kind of argument you're making?
Sort of. It has more to do with it has more to do with the fact that when people talk about the truth, or wanting something to be genuine, right? That's because ultimately that feeling of genuine connection is what allows you to experience whatever positive emotions are associated with that, right? So it's going to be the case that something not being genuine is a threat to that, right? So you would want to know if it's not genuine because it threatens that. That being said, if it is
Hold on.
physical, go on.
So I would like to correct you real quick and say it's not because it's a genuine connection. I would say it's more of the genuineness of the relationship itself, right? Like the validity of the relationship. For
So whether or not
me,
it's
it can
genuine.
feel
That's-
bad. No, I'm just saying it could feel bad both physically and emotionally for me to find out the truth, but I would rather find out the truth anyway. It's not hard to understand, I feel like.
Okay, but why do you think that this is a preference in the first place? It's because generally we don't.
I'm not
Like, you
entirely
have to
sure.
keep in mind that that in terms of the way this hypothetical works, it only works in a vacuum, really, right? We don't live in a vacuum. We live in the real world. So the real reason we have this preference in the first place is because relationships where you can't trust the other person don't usually work out very well, right? That's why we have this almost innate desire to have a trustworthy partner, is because in relationships where your partner is untrustworthy and can't communicate with you, yeah, that's obviously going to lead to negative outcomes.
Okay.
That's
I mean,
why
if you
people
want to,
have
hold
this
on, hold on. We
aversion to
can
being cheated
move.
on.
We can move to a more real world scenario, but can you just please say that you would rather know the truth?
Would I personally rather
Like
know the truth?
assume you're not. Yeah, let's just say you're not gonna self harm. You're not gonna jump off a cliff.
Well, I'm
Like
not.
you would rather know the truth,
Would I rather know the truth? I mean,
even
if we're
though
talking,
it feels bad, even though it feels super bad.
like generally in my life, I would like to know the truth about things in general. But like if I'm in a vacuum, right, where like nothing is real anyway, and the non-truth leads me to experience more positive emotions than negative emotions, and the truth leads me to experience more negative emotions, then yeah, I'm obviously going to go for the non-truth in that
Okay, that's
made-up
crazy.
scenario.
I mean, that's crazy, but we can move on to
That's
the real
not
world
crazy.
scenario.
That's pretty reasonable, actually.
No, because
If we're talking about a
I
vacuum scenario where
yes, I
nothing is even
know,
real in the
but
first place, I would rather
yes, we
think
can.
that everything
Okay,
is
we can
real
agree
and
to
live a happy
disagree,
life
right?
than be
Yeah.
miserable
Okay,
knowing the
so
truth.
okay, let me know when you're done. Okay, so we can agree to disagree, right? But I would rather know the truth no matter what, right? Assuming that I'm not like gonna experience such a large amount of pain to the point where I kill myself, right? Or
This
I
is just
self-harm myself to the point of like really, really bad things down the
this is
line.
not utilitarianism. This is just threshold deontology.
Okay, I don't know what the second thing is, but I'm
Oh
just
my
telling
god.
you what I would prefer, right? Like we
Oh
have a
my god.
hypothetical, and I'm just answering the question of the hypothetical. That's it, right? And I'm just telling you where we disagree as well, which
You're
I
not
think I
even
have
thinking.
been super clear
Here's the
on
issue:
this
is
entire time.
you're not thinking in terms of consequentialism. That's the issue. You're not thinking of this through the lens of consequentialism. You're not really
Well,
thinking about outcomes.
the consequence I want is that I would rather maximize like well-being in the form of the truth in that scenario, right?
But this is so arbitrary. And then you arbitrarily have some sort of threshold where
Yeah, but
you
we already
actually change
agreed
your
that.
mind.
Yeah, but we already agreed
This
that we
isn't
can draw a line. We agreed on
utilitarianism.
that beforehand. Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
the
agree
whole
to it.
point,
I
right?
just didn't push back against it because I didn't think that it was worth talking about in the context of what we were saying before, because there were other points I wanted to address. I never
No,
agreed to the
because
premise.
it's related because your entire thing is built upon feeling good, right? And that's why I'm
Uh-huh.
questioning it.
Yeah,
That's it.
and
It's as simple as that.
my entire system of utilitarianism is in fact consistently built off of maximizing positive emotions and minimizing negative ones. There's no like
So
threshold where that changes. I'm very consistent in that regard. Like it pretty much applies to all situations. And it seems to be the case that everything, at least in the real world, fits into it, right?
yeah, so I'll just say again, right? Because I just disagree with you there. And the reason I disagree with you there is because I don't think like consistently wanting good feelings for me at least is a good standard like at all, right? Because there are going to be scenarios out there where you want to maximize other things other than good
Okay.
feelings, right?
You said that morality is objective, correct?
For me it is.
Well, it wouldn't just
Yeah.
be objective for you. If it was only for you, that would be subjective, right? Now, personally, I believe that morality is objective. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I agree. I just
You
like, for
agree.
example,
Okay.
if a clan, yeah, I'll give an example, right? Like if a clan of like baby drinking cannibals out there exists, and they say, it's moral under our system, I would go like, you know what, you're wrong because my objective
Good.
morality overrides yours, right?
Well, yeah. Well, you would
Let
have
me
the
know if that,
objectively.
yeah.
Well, you would have the objectively correct moral position. I guess what you described is more akin to like moral universalism, but sure.
Well, I mean,
But
then
when
it's moral universalism. It doesn't
sure, but
matter a whole
when
lot.
I talk about like objective morality, like so I break it down to like its most basic to its most basic form, right? So I believe, for instance, we seem to agree that the world around us existing is stance independent, correct? Like it doesn't matter what my stance is, like the world exists regardless, right?
Yeah, water is water, I guess.
Yeah. Right. So
Agua.
wouldn't
Sorry,
it
I just had to mute.
wouldn't it also be the case that our entire perception of the world is based solely on our impressions of it?
Like based on our senses?
Like based on like we see stuff, we hear stuff, people tell us about
I
stuff,
haven't.
right? We intake we're able to absorb certain information, right?
Mm, sure,
And
generally, but I haven't thought
that's
about
what
this
we
particular part too much.
right. Well, but that's sort of how we base our perception of the world, right? Is there's the world is something that we perceive, right? Now,
Wait, real quick, real quick. What does objectivism have to do with the rest of the debate? I'm a bit confused.
because I believe that there are only certain things you can point to that lead to objectivism, right? Otherwise, it's just you've sort of asserted an axiom arbitrarily for no reason, and then you change the axiom if it's a different scenario, just based on what you feel like, right? Like I don't think that that's objective morality, right? So I think we should continue, right? In this
Yeah,
line of
then
reasoning.
sure is, I
Yeah.
guess.
So
But again, I'm just confused where you're going with this. That's
right.
all. Like,
Don't worry. We'll so any perception that's solely based on like a single impression is going to be subjective, right? So however, if there's enough intersubjective agreement, so like we all collectively experience something, we can, and in fact we already do, categorize it as an objective fact. Do you disagree?
It seems to be the case, I think, right? Because in society, like everybody generally agrees on like, oh yeah, this is water, and if someone is schizophrenic,
Right.
then they're generally corrected by other people, it seems, right?
Sure, but like yeah, so there's like but like there's I think that there's like a certain like there's like a certain level of intersubjectivity in certain areas of what we experience. Now, most interestingly, there seems to be some level of I guess intersubjective agreement upon pleasure intuitively being preferable to pain. It seems like I know that I prefer the experience of pleasure over pain. And it seems to be the case that everybody else also has this preference. It seems like almost like it's like something that's better if somebody experiences pleasure, right?
Yeah, but then again, I would say like, pleasure isn't the only factor that counts, right?
Okay, but that's so. What's the best way of explaining this? You would agree, though, that pleasure being preferable to pain is objective, correct?
Yes,
Yes. Okay, good. Right? So
but in some scenario,
therefore,
but we don't just measure things in
therefore,
terms of
hold
pleasure,
on.
right? Like,
So unless you can unless you can prove why one of your axioms that you plug in to the
what does axiom mean?
utilitarianism equation, right? Whether it be truth, whether it be, whatever, you would have to prove why those are just as objective as pleasure being preferable to pain.
I can't because I haven't really thought about it, but really for me, I can just like outline cases where, I would prefer something other than pleasure in some cases, right? Like for
Yeah,
example,
that's your preference, but that doesn't make it that's not a moral prescription. That's just what you prefer, right? I might have a different
well,
preference,
it's
right?
well
Like different
again,
people
this
prefer
is
different things.
well, no, right? Because as I clarified before, I find problems with the first two frameworks, which is why, like, by process of elimination, I go with the third framework, right?
What? What does that even mean?
If I were to maximize pleasure, I find problems with that. If I maximize desire alone, I also find problems with that. So, like, therefore, by process of elimination, I go with objective lists, right?
So your issue is that you find problems because like when it comes to
Yeah. Like,
when it
if I
comes
want to
to how
evaluate
I when
how I
it comes
define
to how
well-being, yeah.
well when it comes to how I um arrive at certain conclusions in terms of like making moral arguments, right? Like I build it from the ground up, right? Like I start with something where it's like, okay, there is a good enough reason for me to assert that yes, this is an objective fact, right? And if you believe in objective morality, regardless of what your preferences are, right? Objective morality is not contingent upon what you personally prefer, right? Then it's going to also be the case that it would be objectively better to maximize pleasure and to minimize suffering, right? All you are
Yeah,
doing is taking
that's
a
not
statement. Hold on. All you would have to do is take a statement that you already agree with for an individual person and apply it broadly in terms of every human being,
right.
right?
But I want to clarify something. Real quick. But this is not the only scale that we use, right? Like, for example, we would also prefer the truth over not the truth, and
Who's
then we
we?
would also prefer we like most of us, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you.
Some people don't give a shit about the truth. Are you kidding?
Yeah, I understand that, right? But generally,
Yeah, so
if
that's not
you
something that would be intersubjectively
like,
agreed upon, so it wouldn't be
if
objective.
you hold on, so if you take like 100 people, right,
There's not enough
and you were to ask
intersubjective
them this
agreement for,
question,
but again, there's not enough
generally
intersubjective
everybody
agreement
agrees
for it
that
to
the
be
truth is
objective. That's the
better than
problem.
not the truth. What? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, there's not enough intersubjective agreement for that to be objective. That's just subjectively what you want.
Well,
Now, maybe there might be a
no,
lot of people that
because
also want the same thing,
I would
but
like to
that's not
counter that.
objective
No, I would like to
morality.
counter that. Objection. So my objection is this, right? Is that for pain and pleasure, that is also not what everybody wants, right?
No,
For your scale.
um, yes, it is. In terms of the amount of intersubjective agreement that there is, yes, absolutely. Like, if you, what's the best way of putting it, right? Like, if you
Well,
experience,
no, some people
hold on,
want
if
only
you
pain, right?
experience pleasure, that is a better experience than pain. This applies to basically fucking everybody, right?
Sure. So the truth is better than
The
lies,
truth
right?
is a value contingent
Look,
upon
here's the this is really clear from an outside perspective. This is like just a semantic dispute. You should both just give like your account of what you mean by want. If Foodshops, you want to start first, but just like explaining what you think the word like want means, and then Femyoz, you should do the same.
I'm not entirely sure what want means itself. Like, what do you mean by want, I guess?
Yeah, that's what's being asked. Look, if you
Like,
don't know, then I'll throw it over to Femyoz. Maybe Femyoz has an account. Like, what
yeah,
either of
yeah.
you?
I mean, Femyoz
Yeah.
can go first, so that I know what it
Yeah,
is,
so
and then I can
I
go.
guess at least the way I view it is it goes beyond just what any given individual wants, right? It's also a matter of what the individual experiences, right? They might not.
Well, what I'm trying to get on the table is just what do you both mean by want, right? Like, do you have like a definition of what wanting is? I know it seems like it's like a fruitless thing, but like given that Foodshops doesn't have a notion of it, that's kind of it seems really obviously where the semantic dispute is. Like it's just a
Yeah, like
definition being more
I
like a
believe
sensible thing.
that. Yeah, I believe that, like, okay, if you want something, it means like you have some sort of desire. It's something that you would like to have, or somewhere you'd like to be, right? There's some there might be some sort of end goal in mind, right? Now, whether or not that leads to positive outcomes is going to be entirely separate, right? Like, I don't believe that whether or not somebody wants something is what determines whether or not that thing happening would necessarily be good for them or for other people, right? So, for instance, a 2-year-old might want candy. They might want a lot of it, right? But that would be bad for them, right? So I believe that it's the case that it have more. I think that it would be preferable to not give them the candy, because while it is true that they want it, it would lead to negative outcomes that would ultimately lead to them suffering more and experiencing more negative emotion.
So
Right?
you're just talking
Yeah,
about what's
like
rational to want, as opposed to like just wants broadly.
Correct.
Okay.
Like, I don't think that wanting something is enough to say that yes, this is objectively like a moral good, right? Like, people want things that are harmful. Like, it's like doesn't just apply to like children either. Like, there are grown adults that want alcohol, but it's fucking terrible for them and it ruins their lives, right?
Well, yeah, since you both
yeah.
agree that
So
morals are objective, probably the best direction to take this ends up being like discussion of what's rational to want and what's not rational to want. But go ahead, Foodshops. You have something to say, and I think it goes that
yeah,
direction.
sure. I would say like we generally want love and romance.
Yeah, and
Do you
why do we
agree with
want
that?
those? Yeah, I do believe that tends to be the case. Yes,
Yeah. So in that case, it would be a thing of pleasure, right? Because we
mm-hmm.
feel pleasure from feeling romance and love.
Correct.
Yeah. So,
So that would be a moral good.
however, sure. But an example that would counter that is, well, not counter, sorry, not counter, but not in all scenarios. But, something that we would weigh is that generally we want truth over untruths, right?
I
Generally,
think
that's what people want, right?
the perfect question I think was asked, but it got kind of like moved past too quickly, which is why do we want those things? I think that's kind of like a good direction here.
Yeah. Like, why do we want those things? What do those things lead to?
Sure. So for me, the truth is important because knowing something is genuine um, brings you a sense of um, I don't know what to say it. It's like a sense of not living a lie or something. I don't know.
A sense of security and happiness, perhaps.
Well, not necessarily, right?
Sense
Because
of authenticity, maybe.
yeah, a sense of authenticity, but I don't know if there's a particular feeling for that. I like the thing is that I wouldn't describe it as pleasure, if that makes
So
sense, right?
hold on. If there are two scenarios where you have a relationship, right, and in one of them you think that the relationship is genuine, and in the other one you don't, do you not believe it would be the case that the one that you think is genuine would lead to you feeling better about the relationship and having a more positive experience?
Yeah, actually, I think that it would lead to more positive outcomes, but I guess where the difference
Mm-hmm.
breaker is that if somebody was cheating on you, right? Like you want to know they are cheating and it would feel very bad, right? Because you
Yes, it
feel
would feel bad.
worthless and you
So the
feel
reason
like,
it's bad is because you would feel
yeah,
bad.
well, no, but that's not
Yes.
bad, right? Like just because you feel bad doesn't mean it's bad. Like it feels bad, but you want to know that they are cheating on you, right?
Yeah, so again,
That's my point this entire time. That's
hold
it.
on, but that doesn't but the reason that you would want to know that something is genuine, right? Or at least believe that you know, is because that perception of knowing that something is genuine leads to positive outcomes, right? So it could be the case that
You mean good feelings, right?
yeah,
Okay.
That would include things like authenticity, correct?
yeah, like
Well,
authentic relationships lead to more positive outcomes in terms of the actual emotional experiences that people have. Like authenticity brings people pleasure. It brings people great joy.
sure.
To have
I
authentic
again,
and real relationships,
yeah.
that
So
sense of realness is what causes them to experience good feelings.
yeah, so I have contention with that, right? Because just like again, it's not about the authentic, like for example for me, right? If I feel as though the relationship to my perception is authentic, I will feel good about the relationship. However, if the relationship itself is inauthentic, I would want to know that it is inauthentic, and it being inauthentic will lead to bad feelings, but I would rather know like the actual truth of it, right?
Well, yeah, that's because you have the desire to have an authentic relationship,
Yeah,
right?
but that doesn't
But
give me
all that
pleasure.
really, but all that, yeah, but the perception of having an authentic relationship, um, again, is what would be leading to those positive feelings, right? So it could be the
Well,
case that, for instance, you would want to know that, yeah, this person is cheating on me because that would destroy that perception, right? You want it to be genuine, right? Because that genuineness is what makes you secure in feeling what you feel.
I feel like I have to disagree because if I ever find out my partner's cheating on me, I would feel bad. Like I wouldn't be feeling good. And the thing is that
Yes, you would
even
feel
knowing the
bad.
truth, hold on, but even knowing the truth, and you can argue because I understand what you're coming from. You're saying that, okay, if I know the truth, me knowing the truth will lead to me feeling good that I know the truth. However, for me, that's not necessarily the case, right? There's lots of examples out there where somebody will just simply feel bad and they will go, "Oh my God, why did I have to know? Why did I have to know? I wish I didn't have to know. I wish it wasn't true," right? But they would still want to know whether or not their partner's cheating on them, right?
Okay, do you think that it's wrong to lie to a child by telling them that Santa Claus is real?
Wait, there's just a white lies thing, which we already went over.
Okay. Well, but the child would want to know if Santa Claus is not real, correct?
Yeah, but it's dependent on a
Yes?
multitude of factors.
Wait, you said yes. So
Yeah, of course the child wants to
why
know whether or not
so
Santa
why
Claus
would
is real
it
or not.
Okay, so what would the symmetry breaker there be? Like what would the symmetry breaker be?
I think that the pleasure they feel in the moment is greater than the truth that they will find out later on, right?
Mhm. I agree. Now,
Yeah.
again, if we're talking about a relationship that occurs only in a vacuum, that same line of logic could be used to justify a relationship where everything is perfect except this person cheats on you behind your back and you have no idea and you have you entirely perceive it to be real, right? Now, for instance, if let's say somebody asked you in that situation, would you like to know that this person is cheating on you? You would obviously say yes.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you were to ask a child if you want to know the truth about Santa and whether or not he is real, the child is also going to say yes. That doesn't mean it is wrong to lie to the child
No,
about
hold on.
Santa.
So I agree with you that the child wants to know whether or not Santa was real or not, but I would say like the nature of a relationship, just because of how important it is, feels much more important than like knowing the existence of Santa, right?
I mean, I don't know. When you're a kid, Santa's pretty important, right? Like I don't know why you
Sure, but
arbitrarily
like,
decide. So the difference is that one thing is more important than the other. This is so like if you're a moral objectivist, you have to do something better than, well, I feel like this is more important, lol.
yeah, and
Like,
for me, it's objective that the nature of a relationship, of a serious committed relationship, is more important than knowing whether or not Santa is real or not to a child.
and why is it more important? Because I do agree that it's more important, but why?
It's more important because I feel as though as a child, right, when you're perceiving things, you're a lot of things are not going to be right. You want to believe in a lot of things, but eventually as you grow up later on, it's not going to be that much of the end of the world or your child believing that the realness matters all that much in all scenarios. But meanwhile, in a serious, committed romantic relationship, that's a huge deal, I feel like. It's
It
dependent
is.
on whether or not you're gonna marry somebody or not,
Yeah, so
or
I
or
agree that
whether or
it's a
not you
huge
want
so
to.
I agree that it's a huge deal. But the only again, the only reason that I believe that it's okay to lie to a child about Santa, but not to cheat on your partner, and this is actually this works within one consistent worldview instead of 20 different ones that are all mutually exclusive, is that when you, again, in the real world, not in a vacuum, but in the real world, when somebody cheats on somebody, there are underlying issues in that relationship that will cause harm. That's the real reason it's good to know if somebody's cheating on you. Because that relationship, A, isn't gonna last, and B, there's no fucking communication between the two of you, so obviously it's just gonna lead to all sorts of negative emotions, right?
Yeah, so
That is
I
the reason why cheating is bad in the first place. It's not
wait.
bad just because it's dishonest. It's bad because that dishonesty and that lack of communication is what leads to harmful outcomes. Hell, you
Okay.
don't even necessarily have to lie. You could just not tell them that you're cheating on them. You could just not say anything. You technically wouldn't be lying,
Yeah,
but
but
you
that's
wouldn't be
kind of like
giving them
lying by
specific
omission, though.
information. Correct.
Hold on. So I want to clarify, right? I agree with you that there is probably a lot of underlying issues in the relationship
Mm-hmm.
where one partner may feel excluded enough to the point where they are cheating. But I guess the thing is for me is that it doesn't matter whether or not there are underlying issues with the relationship or not. And we already agreed on that in a
No,
vacuum.
would no, I didn't. Well, yeah, I agree that in a vacuum, sure. But again, the reason I believe that cheating is wrong in the first place is because it seems to be the case that just about every single time it happens in the real world, not in a vacuum, but IRL, um, it causes negative outcomes that are negative according to my worldview.
Yeah, I agree with you there, right? Like I agree with you on everything like
Uh-huh.
that. But the thing is that
I don't think
again, the
cheating is
reason
wrong
why.
I don't think cheating is wrong for the sake of being cheating. Again, this
Well,
is
I think it is. I think it is. I think it is.
that's
Right. That's the
deontology.
difference.
That's literally just deontology. That's not utilitarianism.
No, because if I want to
Yes.
maximize well-being in this scenario when it comes to knowing the truth, that is what it is, right?
Okay. Do you seriously believe that cheating is wrong on the sole basis of it being cheating? Because you just said that it is.
Well, when you say cheating, it already has the inherency of wrongness baked into it.
Yeah,
That's why it's called cheating.
that's not consequentialism. That's utilitarianism. Any consequentialist will disagree with what you just said there. As somebody that's actually a consequentialist, cheating isn't wrong because it's cheating. It's wrong because it leads to negative outcomes. It is about the outcomes, not the action in of itself. The reason that the action is
Yeah,
wrong
and
in the first place is because it leads to negative outcomes.
yeah, and again, I'm questioning your framework for it, right? That's the point.
Okay, but you're not just questioning my framework. You are rather than
Assigning
you
my own framework, yes,
that you're not, but you said you were utilitarian.
I am.
You're not. You're a deontologist.
I mean, I try to maximize like the desire for the truth, I guess, in this scenario. Would that not be utilitarianism? I feel like
So the
that's literally one
You're
of the
not a
here
truth
is that,
utilitarian. You just
well, so the-
randomly.
hold on. The confusion here is just that Femyoz is pointing out that you think that the reason why cheating is bad is purely on the basis of it being cheating, right? And so that's just the tension that Femyoz is having issues with. Is it the case that cheating is bad because of the fact that it leads to this bad outcome of lack of authenticity,
Oh,
lack of
okay,
true
okay.
beliefs,
No,
or is it
it
bad
is.
because it's cheating?
Yeah, so it's sorry, I want to clarify, right? Because I think the reason cheating is almost always bad is because in my worldview, it diminishes, well, not diminishes, sorry, is that it leads to negative, well, sorry, not negative well-being, but like it, there needs to be authenticity, right? And because I value in this case authenticity as a form of well-being. That's what it is.
And why do you value authenticity? I mean, I do too, but I'd like to know why.
Uh, because I don't know
You
actually.
don't know. So I'll tell you
No,
why
but I think there's
well, hold on. I'll
it's
tell
like
you
it's
why
like
I
asking
value
why.
it, and I'll see if you agree with it. I value authenticity because it seems to be the case that almost every single time something is authentic, it leads to more positive outcomes.
What's that positive outcome?
So for instance, if a relationship is authentic, it generally seems to be the case that it leads to like a happier emotions, better state of mind. It just seems healthier, right?
Okay. What do you think I will answer?
I don't know yet because you haven't answered yet. You
I'll
said that.
answer
Well,
it.
you said that you
So
didn't know.
it will, yeah, so let me answer it. So basically, sure, authenticity again could lead to positive emotions. It leads to happiness. But
Mm-hmm.
authenticity will also lead to wanting to know whether or not your partner is cheating on you, which is not happiness. That's not happiness. It's just sadness, depression, and bad. That's
Okay.
it,
So
right?
do
But the
you?
authenticity is
How
more
familiar?
important.
Okay. How familiar are you with the concept of predicted utility in terms of being able to predict whether or not something will cause utility? I assume you're familiar with that, right?
Uh, I'm not entirely sure, but sounds like it's an easy concept to understand.
Yeah, I'll explain it briefly. So, for instance,
Sure.
the reason that somebody who commits involuntary manslaughter gets a lesser sentence than, say, somebody that, deliberately commits a murder that was, like, very well thought out, right? Is because even though the
Mm.
outcome of a person dying is the same, the difference is that one person has the intention to commit murder. Now, what does that intention mean? Well, it means that because it was intentional, they're more likely to do it again. So you can predict that they are more likely to decrease utility if they don't go to prison and they're back out in the real world. Whereas the person that committed involuntary manslaughter, well, they probably regret it, right? They didn't do it on purpose. They have no intention of doing it again. And if anything, they're going to avoid it in the future, right? So that's why we give different sentences for that, right? Now, that would be an example of being able to
Okay.
predict of how the legal system operates based on that predicted utility, right? At least in theory, right?
Okay.
Um,
Sure.
so
Oh,
similarly, uh, I value authenticity because things that are authentic have a much higher predicted utility than things that are inauthentic.
uh, let me wrap my brain around what you just said. Predicted utility?
Yeah, so you can
Um,
predict the utility, the positive outcomes, right? Like for instance, I mean, you make predictions all the time, I'm sure, right? Like you can
yeah,
predict that if you give your mom a hug, right, she'll be happy, right? That's predicted
yeah.
utility,
Hmm.
right? You
Yeah.
can predict if you slap your mom in the face that she'll be really upset, and that would also be an example of that. You can predict, oh, that causes suffering.
Mhm.
That's bad, right?
So
Even
so what
before
is
you
it in
do
this
it, you can
case?
make that prediction, right? So
Sure.
similarly,
So what is it in this case?
you can apply this to not only actions, but you can also apply it to certain concepts, right? You can apply it to authenticity, right? So if something is authentic, you can predict that it is more likely to have positive outcomes than if it is inauthentic. For instance, a relationship that's authentic and genuine is going to produce more positive outcomes, more happiness than a relationship that is inauthentic.
Sure, but we're not talking about
But the point
predictions, right?
is that authenticity in of itself is not the end goal. Authenticity is valuable because of something else, because it leads to something. It leads to things that are good. It leads to positive outcomes. Authenticity and things that are authentic have a higher predicted utility than things that are not. That's why it's
Well,
valuable.
mm, not
Think about it.
really.
Yes,
I think no
really.
matter what, like authenticity is like the end goal, right?
What that's the end goal? That's it?
For
That's
for
the
that
end all
for
be
that
all?
specific
But
for that
it's
specific
is
scenario, yes, right?
once
Like
again,
because you want to know whether or not like someone's cheating or
but
not.
why?
If they are.
Why do you want to know that? What is the reason that authenticity matters? What makes authenticity valuable in the first place?
Uh, I'm actually not sure. I think it's just in of itself. That's it.
It's just in of itself. Again, this is
Yeah.
deontology. Saying that something is valuable in of itself without pointing to any actual outcomes is deontology. That's not consequentialism.
Yeah, but the good outcome you want to maximize is authenticity in this
Yeah,
case,
but
right?
why is that a good outcome? There's nothing objective about that. You haven't pointed to any reason
It's
why that's objective.
it's a good outcome because we just simply have a preference for authenticity as a good, right?
Uh, so hold on. So whether or not a plurality of people prefers something, like okay, what if a plurality of people are have the preference of gay marriage being illegal? Does that make it right, or is that not a matter of what a plurality of people
Gay
deem to be the
marriage
case?
being illegal, you said?
Correct.
Um, well, it's more like for core values, right? We're not talking
Core
about gay
values.
marriage.
Okay, but why?
Yeah,
Where do those
but gay
core
marriage is
values
not a
come
core
from?
value.
Because the core values don't mean anything on their own. Where do these values come from? Why are they valuable? What outcomes do they lead to that make them valuable? Because you can easily break it down.
I think it's like a mixture of pleasure and desire, right? If that makes sense. Desire
S-
and health, I think is probably
So
the
the
best way to
three
put it.
variables now, okay? So it's a mixture.
Well,
Okay,
we're
so
we're
we've
dumbing
gotten
it
it
down,
down.
right? Because I
Hold
took
on, we've gotten
authenticity
it
out of the
down. Hold
equation.
on, we've gotten it down to a few variables, okay?
Yeah.
Pleasure, um, uh, health,
Desire,
and desire, okay?
desire. Yeah.
Now,
Mhm.
so for health, it's going to be the case that living a
You
healthy
agree it's good.
lifestyle. Hold
Yeah.
on. It's going to be the case that do you believe that first of all, do you believe that health is good because it's health? Or do you think that maybe it's good because it leads to people living happier, healthier lives? And the reason that the healthy aspect is important is because, well, it makes them happier.
Well, no, not necessarily,
You
right?
think
I'm
that
just
living
saying
a
that it's
healthy
just a
lifestyle
good.
doesn't make somebody happier?
No, 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 no. All I'm saying is that it's just simply a good to be healthy. That's it, right? I'm
Why is
not
it
saying
good?
that it will lead.
But why is it good?
No, it's good in of itself.
But why?
Health, healthiness. No, no,
Why
that's
is it
where
an objective good? What about that is objective?
it prevents you from dying. I
So?
guess. I don't know.
Okay, so hold on. All
Yeah,
right,
so that's
we're almost
good.
there. So
I
I'll
don't know why it's
explain.
not
So
good.
I'll
That's what
explain.
I
I'll
mean.
explain. Okay.
Yeah.
So health, yeah. So if you're healthy, you're less likely to experience things like feeling like shit all the time. You don't want to feel sick all the time. You don't want to die in your 40s because you just ate McDonald's 3 times a day, right? That's why health matters, right? It allows you to live a better life that's happier because you're obviously going to feel miserable if all you eat is fast food, right? That's why health is valuable.
So the reason why health is separated from feeling good, right, in my mind, is because, for example, heroin, right? Let's just take the drug heroin. Heroin makes you feel great. It makes you feel fantastic, right? But would heroin be healthy?
No, it wouldn't be healthy. So it would give you temporary pleasure,
So
but you
there
have
you
to keep in
go.
mind,
That's
you
it.
have to keep in mind that like A, you have to be able to consistently afford heroin, and B, you build up a tolerance. So even if you consistently do the same amount of heroin, it's going to stop being enough. And then you're going to be back at square one, except you're less healthy, right? So you're just going to be worse off than you were before, right? So this would just be a
No,
comparison between short-term pleasure versus long-term pleasure, in which the long-term pleasure would supersede the short-term pleasure in terms of what's preferable.
you hold on. We haven't even defined between short term and long term or whatever the heck, right? I'm just
What do you
saying
think
that
I'm referring to
when it
when I
comes
say
to
short-term versus
heroin,
long-term? But I'm
yes, I
explaining
know what you
why I'm
mean.
explaining
You're
why somebody doing heroin would actually
okay.
decrease the total amount of pleasure they experience in their life, right?
I'm not okay. Okay, I'm not sure if you're just like pretending you don't understand or something like that, right? But
No,
I'm
I
just
I
saying,
understand. I'm just refuting your point.
no, no. All I'm saying, right, is that heroin is unhealthy, which you agreed to.
Mhm.
However, it gives you pleasure, right?
Temporarily, yeah, but long term it decreases the amount of pleasure you experience in your life. So it would actually be a net negative in that regard. Not
I
because it's
mean,
unhealthy, but because it decreases
maybe, but
the
what if
total amount of
okay,
pleasure
okay,
and increases the amount of
maybe, but
suffering.
okay, maybe, but what if it's like this? What if that somebody was like injecting heroin into their veins, all right, but they just like at some point in the middle of their heroin binge, they commit suicide, right? Or they just instantaneously, like, I don't know, lose their life. I think in that specific case, I would still draw a distinction between health and pleasure, right? Like, it doesn't
Yeah,
really
so
matter because
again, like this would just be preventing them from experiencing pleasure in the future, right? So they might experience a
no, it
decent,
also prevents them
a,
from experiencing pain in the future as well, right?
well, no, they wouldn't be experiencing the pain of having a heroin addiction if they just didn't do heroin in the first place, right? So either way, they would be preventing themselves from experiencing pleasure in the future.
Well, it'll again, it would also prevent them from experiencing any traumatic events in the future or living with their trauma or living from the repercussions of heroin or the repercussions of anything else. However, even if the rest of their life is miserable, I myself find the continued flow of life good, right?
Okay, based on what standard is that good?
That's it. That's where it ends.
So
Just the
so you
continued
believe that
flow
the
of life
continued
is
flow of
generally
life, do you
considered a
just
good.
and you just so
Yes.
okay. So the reason that I would say that it's preferable to not do heroin for even for that individual was the reason I already laid out. It decreases utility, but let's say no matter what, that individual is miserable, right? Well, okay, there's going to be people around them that are negatively affected by their heroin addiction. There's going to be people around them that might care about them. Now, let's say they live in a fucking vacuum, okay? They're completely isolated. They're by themselves. Nothing. All that exists is them, their ability to survive without any food or water, and a needle that they can inject themselves with heroin, and it has an infinite amount of heroin. Okay, and they're no matter what, they live for a fixed amount of time, or maybe the heroin decreases their lifespan, right? If that's the case, I think in that
Okay.
situation it would be morally not a bad thing, maybe even a good thing to do the heroin, because at that point you're not losing anything, right? There's nothing to lose there. There's no potential good experience that you'd be losing out on. It's either you just sit there and you're bored and sad and do nothing, or you do heroin and, hey, maybe it's not a meaningful life, but at least you're not miserable, right?
So when I'm talking about health,
Well, you'd
I
be less healthy in that situation
probably
too, right? But in the
I'm
vacuum
probably
situation,
sure,
it wouldn't
yes.
matter.
Yes, but this is why we have multiple factors at play, right? Because I would imagine that, for example, if somebody was on a terminal illness
Okay,
and they are
I want to
prescribed
make it
heroin
clear
because it makes them feel
sure,
good.
there's going to be multiple factors at play, but I just want to make this clear. You would agree in my weird hypothetical of the guy doing heroin, you agree with me that, like, yeah, there wouldn't be anything wrong with them doing heroin in that specific circumstance, right?
In that specific which circumstance again? Can you repeat that?
So there's a person that lives in a vacuum. There's no society.
hmm
And without heroin, they live for 80 years. With heroin, they live for 55 to 60, okay? Now, without heroin, they're just going to, let's say they don't need food or water or anything like that, okay? They just exist perpetually for an extended period of time, right? Now, if they take the now they can either be bored and healthier and miserable for 80 years and do nothing, or they can take the heroin, be less healthy, but hey, at least they're having a good time, right? What do you prefer?
In that case, I feel like I have to be more consistent and say like the continued flow of life and the healthiness is good, right? Generally.
Why? Why would that be good? Why would you want them to live a miserable 80 years when they could live 55 amazing years where there's
Well,
no
is
other
it clear? Wait, hold on,
ramifications?
hold on. Is the clarification that they're gonna be miserable?
Um, they're
Did you
either gonna be
clarify that
they're
part?
either gonna feel neutral or bad. Like they're gonna be bored, right? They're in a vacuum, right? But they do have a needle with infinite heroin. They can have a good time. It'll decrease their lifespan, sure, but why do you think that the quantity of years you exist supersedes the quality of life?
I think it depends in that case, right? Because
It
we can just
depends.
simplify it, right? Because if because in my mind, right, the less life you experience, I guess, then it sort of correlates with like the health as well, right? Because at some point,
Uh-huh.
I would be comfortable saying it's worth it to have the rest of your life on heroin because you don't have long to live, right?
No, no,
But
no, 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 no.
if you value the impacts of long-term health, then you should not be doing heroin, right? Like, yeah.
Okay, okay, so I guess that would be less to do with health, because again, you're again you broke it
Well,
down
you're
into
giving
a
a
few different.
real
Hold on, you broke it down
yes.
into a few different categories, right?
So
And again, if we're talking about health, if the end all be all is health, why would you be in favor of somebody making the conscious decision to do, using their autonomy to do
Mhm.
heroin in that example, if that decreases your health? I thought that health was like this inseparable force for good that under no circumstances should be hindered upon.
No, only in that only in
Ah, so you
specific scenarios.
can break it down
No, no, no.
further. Yes, you
No,
can.
no, like
Yes.
I said, no, like can I finish? Okay, so like I said before, it's not going to be the only factor in real world scenarios, right? Generally, you're probably measuring the pros and cons of many different factors, and it's just not going to be contingent on pleasure alone, right? Like I feel like this
Um,
is common sense, but I don't know.
no, I think what you're conflating is things that directly lead to pleasure and things that indirectly lead to pleasure, right? So, for instance, it could be the case that eating ice cream every day, for your entire diet, you might be bringing yourself temporary pleasure directly, right? However, if you
Mhm.
eat healthy, hold on, if you eat healthy food every day instead, you might not be temporarily experiencing as much pleasure, but indirectly, because of the ramifications on your health, that health leads to better outcomes in terms of your mental well-being, right? And that mental well-being is what determines the extent to which you experience positive and negative emotions.
Disagree.
You
I
disagree?
think, yeah, I'll explain. Let me explain. So, the reason I disagree is because even if you improve your health to the point of where you can generally experience a longer form of life, and that could lead to better, and that's more likely to lead to more pleasure, right? However, that's not necessarily the case, right? Like, what if the rest of your life that you extended your health for was miserable because your family got murdered and you spent the rest of your life ruminating on that, right? Then
Uh,
maybe you should have died sooner. Maybe you should have
but
died sooner so you didn't have to live long enough to see your family get murdered, right?
we're
Like,
not talking about again, I'm trying to isolate the variables here. We're not talking about a
yeah,
situation in
me
which
too.
somebody's family gets
Yes,
murdered.
yes, yes.
Like again, if we're talking
I'm
about okay, if we're talking
no,
about okay, who do you think lives a better life in terms of the positive versus negative emotions they experience? Somebody on my 1,000-pound life, or somebody that doesn't eat McDonald's 3 times a day, that lives a healthy lifestyle? Who do you think is going to experience more happiness and more positive emotions and less suffering and negative emotions?
so yes, I agree with
Is it
you,
going to be the
right?
person that's the one in the 1,000? Is it the 1,000-pound person or the healthy person?
The healthy person is going to experience a better life, right? But
Hmm.
at that point, we're not
Do you think
really
that
basing it
maybe
off of
that's the
pleasure.
value of health? Do you think maybe that's why health is valuable? Because it
No,
leads to
no,
positive
health
outcomes
in of
consequentially?
itself is good, right?
But
Because like I said before, it enables you to experience both further pleasure and pain, right?
what? I I don't think
That's
you're
the whole
understanding. I
point.
don't think you're understanding why
No, I understand
consequentially.
perfectly, right? Because what I'm saying is that um when you have better health, your lifespan is expanded, right? But it's not every single time that in that extended lifespan that you'll be experiencing pleasure or, yeah,
Okay, but
right?
you already agreed that, for instance, if somebody is permanently paralyzed from head to toe, and they consent to the plug being pulled, that it's okay to have the plug pulled, right? So it's not a matter of whether or not they live longer. You've already agreed to the premise that it's not always the case that living longer is better, right? It's
So
about
in
the
that
quality of
case, it
life.
would no, because remember, I already told you before that in that case, I'm measuring different variables, right? Because at that point, it seems like the rest of their life, knowing, because we know, right? The whole point is that we know. But the thing is that with the health question for the rest of your life, like let's just say you have a long, fulfilling life if you are healthy, right? We don't know in that case. But if you know for a fact they're going to be on
Okay,
tubes
well then if
for the
you
rest
don't
of
know, that's the
time,
difference, is because you can't say,
if you
ah,
don't
well, you
know,
see
then
they
there's no
live a
guarantee of pleasure. There's a correlation, but the guarantee is not there. I feel like I'm just going around in circles at this
Okay, but
point. I don't know what
wait,
else to tell you.
the fact of the matter is that it tends to be the case that when people live healthy instead of unhealthy and being 1,000 pounds, right, and going on TLC, that the healthy person experiences a better life with a higher slash better ratio of positive emotions versus negative emotions, right? So again,
Yeah, so I already told you that it's correlated, but it's not the only thing that,
okay,
again, then
well,
at
and
that
I
point,
gave
it's
you,
not
hold
based
on,
off of
I
pleasure
agree that it's
alone.
correlated and that it's not always going to be the case, but that's why I gave you the
Well,
specific example that I did, the heroin example, right? Where I gave you an example of when pleasure would supersede health, right? And because the reason that I am in favor of having good health um almost all of the time is because almost all of the time it leads to positive outcomes in terms of experiencing positive emotions and not experiencing negative
well,
ones.
hold on. Let's look. It seems like we're in like
I don't know what
this
to
point
say
in discussion
anymore.
where you. Well, yeah. Hold on. Right. So it seems like we're at that point of the discussion where most people are like both parties are just sort of like calling back to earlier previous arguments. And so unless you guys think there's going to be some kind of like further progress here, if you guys want, I'm sure this has been going for a while. Do you guys want to like wrap up and do a little closing? Or do you guys want to just
Yeah,
wrap up
let's
here?
just
That's fair.
let's just wrap up. Yeah, I think
Foodshop,
I
if you
think at
want, you
this
can go
point
first.
we've been going in circles 10 times. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you can go first. I can go first. I don't know.
Yeah,
You guys choose.
just go ahead, go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. So basically, in my life, I want to know the truth in some scenarios, and I want to extend my lifespan, even though I could know that the rest of my life could or could not be miserable. However, I feel as though that if precognition was a big factor where I would know for the rest of my life that I would be incredibly miserable to the point of no return, then yes, I would try to maximize pleasure in the last moment. So, really, I think it's a complicated question that requires complicated answers in different cases. Basing it solely off of pleasure is not enough. And that's it. That's my closing statement. Oh, you can find me
Yeah.
on Foodshops. Yeah, at Foodshops _ and then yeah.
Yeah, so I guess
Go
my
ahead.
closing statement is that it seems to be the case that hedonic utilitarianism is preferable to Foodshop's weird amalgamation of 10 mutually exclusive ethical frameworks, where essentially what she does is she'll just find a random axiom to arbitrarily prioritize because she feels like it, and then saying that it's good because it's good, or in terms of health is good for the sake of being health, right? Like I don't think that that's like logical. I mean, she agrees with me in terms of morality being objective. She agrees that pleasure being preferable to pain is objective. Yet for whatever reason, she doesn't want to use an objective standard in her supposedly objective morality and would rather just arbitrarily and subjectively define what's the morally best thing to do in a situation or in general. Yeah, I think that's my closing statement.
Okay,
All right.
awesome. Yeah,
Well,
thanks for the debate. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right.
It was
Yeah.
entertaining to watch, even though you pieces of shit started late. It was fun to watch you guys have a good one. I'm gonna go get more high. You guys wasted my
Hell yeah.
entire time on
Okay,
that.
I'm gonna go and get some food, and probably hopefully the power comes back on in 3 minutes. And then I'll start streaming or something. Meanwhile, I'll see you guys around. And yeah, thank you so much for the debate. I appreciate it. I'm always up for more debates. And yeah, that's about it. You can find me at Foodshops _ and that's about it. Oh, also, can I download the VOD?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it. I
Okay,
keep all my VODs
awesome.
public.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll see you guys around. Yeah, bye-bye.
All right, have a good one. That was interesting.
That's the way you could describe it
Um,
on some accounts.
I feel like a lot of the time we were just talking past each other.
Yeah, I noticed that there was a lot of like getting hung up on these like semantic disputes that didn't really get anywhere, and it's just like you'd have some like account for what this term means, like you'd mean something by it, and then Foodshops is kind of like this like rubbing hard against her intuition for what the term means, but like she doesn't really have an account of it. And
Yeah.
it's just it's really hard to make progress like that.
Well, I feel like the problem is that she just like arbitrarily decides solely based on her intuition what form of quote unquote utilitarianism she's using.
Yeah, well, I mean, like moderator hat off. Yeah, that's like that is really strange to have arbitrary random things you're just picking up at like bit ground level. If you want to have an objective standard, if you want to be like, if you want to say the morals are objective, or the morals
Yeah.
are, yeah, like if you want to be a moral realist. It's
Yeah.
strange. It's strange because like
That's
we wouldn't do that for like math or science, but suddenly the
yeah.
domain where our emotions are caught up in it, now it's fine to do.
Yeah,
Seems really
that's sort of what pissed me off was like when I asked her if she was a moral realist, she said yes, but didn't know what that meant. Apparently, and then I asked, okay, do you think morality is objective? She agreed to it. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll just assume you agree with all of my arguments for why it's objective. But I eventually I realized, okay, I have to lay this out, right? Like, it's like I don't think she understands why she thinks morality is objective, right?
Well, I think the reason she thinks morality is objective is because if you say morality is not objective, that kind of feels bad. It's
Yeah,
making you an
that's true.
assumption.
I think
But
yeah. Well, I
But like,
think
if
she
you
can.
want to say if you want to say it's subjective, right? Take a look at the other things that are objective, like biology or something. Like, imagine if like
Yeah.
a racist came up to you and they was like, "No, no, I just like axiomatically assume that like black people are genetically different, and that makes them like dumber or something." Like, well,
Yeah.
that's not how. That's sorry that you can't just like pick axioms out of a hat, right? This is
Right,
something
that's
just
what
like
she
you
was
objectify.
doing though. She was picking axioms out of a hat. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, yeah, and like in the moral domain, they're not actually axiomatic, right? They're not axioms. What you're picking are like judgments. So in that case, you want to do it if you're gonna say the like judgments should be like objective, then you're gonna want to do it in some kind of objective way. You want to do it the same way you do for the other objective stuff. You don't want to pick this objective metric the same way you pick like which food you like or which like movies you want to watch or like what fucking music you like to listen to. Those are all
Yeah.
subjective.
Yeah, like exactly. Like she would not like she would say, "Oh no, this is like the objective standard because it is." And I'm like, "Okay, but can you explain how this fundamentally is objective the same way that I've explained how my standard is, right?" Like I specifically talked about like how like once there's like enough intersubjective agreement that it reaches a certain point. I had even written down like an analogy to like how we categorize colors. um I guess I never really got to bring that up.
Yeah.
She would just like accept something without knowing what it meant, I feel like.
Yeah. That's a common food shopsism, and it makes it really hard for her in discussions, because she'll just I mean like this is my guess, right? To anybody like watching, it's just like looks like food shops just like contradicting herself all over the place, and it just ends up looking like that if you just like agree to things without really knowing what you're agreeing to. Like she's like agreeing to something without actually having the belief you're agreeing to is just like just because you think like it's like what you're obligated to do in the discussion. It just ends up being hard to make any kind of progress there.
Yeah, I don't think she even really knows much about utilitarianism. I'm not like the expert on it, but like I have like some amount of knowledge and understanding of it. Like I don't know every single type of utilitarianism or every facet or whatever. But I don't know, like it feels like I don't know. Like I went into this debate thinking she was going to argue against utilitarianism, and that she was either going to argue in favor of her intuition or some other ethical framework based on what she was saying in the live stream where I was in her chat arguing with her. Like it didn't seem
Yeah,
like
she's
she
got this
was.
problem where she agrees to debates where the proposition is like not something she's actually got arguments against, and then she'll want to either like not be having a debate, or she'll want to like I don't know like move the argument to some like other random topic. So like you'll be like, hey, do you want to argue about utilitarianism? I think utilitarianism is true. Let's debate it. And then she'll go in and she'll be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I agree, utilitarianism is true. So that's not
Yeah,
come on.
this is exactly how I also pointed this out indirectly when I came on to argue about Chris Chan. Is I agreed to argue about Chris Chan, and then as soon as I joined the VC, I immediately brought up the lolicon stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean
It's like
it's a pain sometimes, but like I don't know, like the debate went well. I mean, utilitarianism is looking really strong at the person who's arguing against it doesn't really like want to argue against it.
yeah, that's true. It's like, well, goddamn, like me simply joining the VC made her agree to utilitarianism suddenly. I mean, hell. Uh,
Wait, hold on. Did you tell her you were underage or something?
no. I did not. I don't know. It's oh my god. I yeah, I don't I I don't understand how her brain works. I find it fascinating though. Truly fascinating. I don't know.
I mean, that's yeah, we'll agree to disagree. I don't find it that interesting. I'm gonna keep it honest. I'm gonna keep it real.
No,
Food
that's
shop is
valid.
crazy. Like I don't know, like it'd be interesting if there was a complexity to it. Like a schizophrenic is interesting. But like
I'm not saying
know.
it's complex. I just think it's like interesting. Like I
yeah,
don't know, just in general. Just that's it. That's strange. That's interesting, you know?
yeah.
Like interesting the way like a fun fact would be, did you know that this object is this many kilometers wide? Oh, I didn't know that. That's an interesting fun fact, you know? It's not really complex. It's still
Yeah, I get
interesting
you.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got different preferences. But yeah, I get
Yeah.
you.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fun facts person, but
me neither. I can't fucking stand why the fucking fuck Snapple, fuck those bottle caps. I don't want to learn
yeah.
about like some random fun fact that's kind of like probably not true. It's shit they made
Yeah,
up.
exactly.
I don't know. How long are you streaming for after this? You closing up shop?
I don't know. I'm probably gonna stream for like another 45 minutes, hour-ish.
All right. Well, good luck. I'm gonna go get super stoned.
All right.
Enjoy your streaming.
All right. Have fun getting stoned. Thank you for coming on.
Peace.
See you. Yeah, that was an interesting debate with the one and only food shoppy shopperson. Man, it really be like that, huh? Truly the debate of all time. Check Discord. Okay. I see. I see. Very epic meme basically saying that not only does he doesn't want me to get pregnant, he needs me to get pregnant. Of course, of course. How could he not? Oh my god. I don't know. How do you with me, she just kept flipping back and forth between talking points after I countered them. It was like whack-a-mole. Yeah. Like the most specific example in the debate I just had that I can think of off the top of my head was like I basically like pinned her on like a very important point and she just immediately wanted to move away from it. I'm like, "No. You're not moving. You're not going to move away from that. You don't just get a free pass. This is a debate. Come on." Also, I just noticed this stream only has 3 likes. I know that there's some of you watching this that have not smashed like. I think you know what you need to do. But yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done a debate in a while, so I guess it didn't get that many viewers. Oh well. I guess I didn't like promote it beforehand. That was certainly something. Yeah, truly the debate of all time. Smash like if you agree. Oh my god. Bottomyoz has such a pretty smile. Nuh-uh. No, and I'm not a bottom. I'm not a already liked the stream. Based and red pilled? Yeah, I feel like I could have done better though, but like I feel like that every time I have a debate that isn't like that doesn't like literally end in like a 100% concession from the other person. I guess, well, to be fair, she conceded her position against being of being against utilitarianism within like the first 5 seconds. I don't really count that because I didn't really do anything there. She just sort of like agreed to one thing and was like, yeah, but actually, what if I argued a completely different point? I'm like, ah, oh, jeez. It's like the reason I schedule a debate is so that I can like have like some idea of what I'm talking about. To like make sure I don't like say anything wrong in the debate. And to avoid going in circles, right? Like I'd written stuff down beforehand. Not like too much. It wasn't like I spent hours doing research into different forms of utilitarianism or whatever, right? But like, I just wrote down some stuff to make sure that like we stayed on topic, right? It stuck to the proposition. But she didn't really have that much of a proposition. She just sort of said stuff. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't going to force her to argue for a position that, you know, she didn't actually hold, you know. But, oh well. Even though she agreed to it. But, yeah, I don't know. It would have been nice if I knew ahead of time that it was that I would specifically be arguing for a specific type of utilitarianism that I believe. I mean, it wasn't like that difficult. Like, I mean, I believe it for a reason, right? But damn, no Q&A. I guess you can ask me questions. I should have oh fuck, I should have done a Q&A. That's like what modern day debate does. You're genuinely so cute and breedable. Nuh-uh. Oh, do you guys want to see my outfit today? It's a classic. It's a certified hood classic. I'm wearing the stripy arms, the stripy arm warmers and the stripy thigh highs. Everybody gangsta to like hit him with the fucking stripy socks. And hell yeah. Foodshops will do this strange thing where she agrees with you, then brings up some nonsense, disagrees with you on something you agreed on earlier, and then disagrees with you on the first thing. Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, it's like, it was weird. I feel like her worldview is like a weird clusterfuck of like just intuition and like some small bits and pieces randomly of utilitarian framework, and then also a deontological framework, if you could even call it that. I don't even know if I would consider it that. Framework might be a little bit too strong of a word, I don't know. But yeah, it was really weird. Like, once she said like that she believes that that things, like any of the axioms that she randomly picks out of a hat and asserts depending on the situation based on intuition, are that they hold inherent value because they do. Health is good because it's health. It's like, well, there's nothing objective about that. That's just you saying words. Guys, did you know that I have two elbows because I have two elbows? Oh my god, guys. It's like, yeah, like it could be a correct statement, right? Like, I agree that health is good, right? And valuable, right? But it's like I feel like there's like reasoning that goes beyond that, right? And it can be difficult to articulate. If you ask the average person, why do you have two elbows? It's like, well, they might not know exactly why, right? But the reason isn't just because they have two elbows. It's because of years and years and years and centuries and centuries and centuries and more and hundreds and thousands of centuries and millions of years, like a lot of years, okay, of evolution, okay? That's what caused it. It was evolution, right? And you could get into evolution, right? But that's the explanatory variable. Like, I am not going to sit here and say ethics is simple, but goddamn, she was assuming so much stuff for no reason. Yeah. Like, look, it's not to, like, say that, like, she's a complete moron or whatever, right? Like, she's better at debate than the average person. Like, I know it's easy to, like, watch a stream and then, like, point and laugh at the person that's losing or whatever, right? They look like an idiot or whatever, right? because they're losing the debate, right? But like the average person in a debate is a fucking retard, okay? Like you have to understand, like Foodshops, despite not winning that debate, despite making very confusing arguments, is significantly better than the average person at debate, right? Like the average person does not know how to debate at all. You're so cute when you talk about evolution, makes me want to put a baby in you. Yeah. No, I don't know. Like, it's interesting how it works in a debate where it's like, so you don't have a reason to believe this, you just believe it. I guess that's the point of the debate, though, is to like explain your reasoning and why your reasoning is superior than the other person's. It's like the other person doesn't even have reasoning. What am I supposed to do? They just say it's true because it's true, or it's false because it's false. Or, oh my god. It's like there's almost always some sort of underlying mechanism for why something is the way it is. And I wish more people understood that. The sky isn't just blue because it's blue. It is blue, but it's not because it's blue, right? It's because of how our atmosphere, or I think it's because of like how our atmosphere deals with light from the sun, and how it maybe sort of blocks certain. Look, I'm not a fucking scientist, right? But there's like some underlying reasoning behind it, right? Like I don't know the exact details behind the reasoning, right? But like I know that it's not just blue because it's blue, right? That's just circular logic, right? You have to get to like almost, you have to break it down to almost like you almost have to like engage in some level of I guess I don't know if I mean I wouldn't call it epistemological analysis, but like just like breaking everything down to its core and having an understanding of that, right? Again, once you can do that and construct a reliable variable that's objective, again, pleasure being preferable to suffering is objective, right? So, again, and she agreed to that, right? So why would anyone in their right fucking mind, if they're a moral realist or a moral objectivist, fucking acknowledge that, yeah, this is like a variable that's objective, but then apply non-objective variables or variables that can't be proven to be objective in any meaningful capacity instead? That doesn't make any sense. I wrote down 5 questions for her. I'm sorry. You are hedonic. I am desire-based. But either model is superior to her. Well, she doesn't have a model. That's the issue. Like I think desire-based versus hedonic would be better. I guess you could like that would be like a more of like an interesting debate in terms of like I guess at least if you're like a debate nerd and you're watching that. Like that's a debate if I were to debate you, Lord Pasta, maybe I might lose, who knows. Like I would go into it with that like in my mind as like a possibility. Maybe we could do that. Yeah, I would probably have to prepare ahead of time to do that. Same, yeah. Otherwise, we're going to be talking past each other. But yeah, I'll have to think about it because I guess you could make a similar argument for desires. So you could say that like a desire, like the fact that there are things that are desirable and undesirable is objective, right? So you could say that that's like a an objective categorization, right? But I guess my main line of reasoning for why that's not the objective standard to use is because ultimately I just view it as a proxy almost for hedonic utilitarianism, right? Like the reason we have preferences is because we prefer things that we believe will ultimately lead to some sort of betterment of our situation or well-being or the situation of the world, right? But ultimately, those preferences might be irrational, right? So it could be the case, and I guess you could say, well, but there's like a I don't know. I feel like if we're dealing with preferences, like somebody might prefer something, but then they might not prefer the outcomes of that thing, but then they don't realize that that's ultimately a preference regarding the outcome. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's our point of disagreement. You're desirable. You have a preference for being a trad wife? Yeah, that's kind of true. A trad wife that streams. You know what? I would do that, unironically. The trad wife streamer. So real. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why preferences would be inherently desirable. Well, I guess because you desire something that you preference. I guess like you could frame it that way. I don't know. I guess you would have to come up with an argument for why desires ought to supersede fucking whatchamacallit, the actual like emotions, right? Because I think you can desire things that lead to negative outcomes, right? It's just the case that most people desire things that lead to positive outcomes, at least for themselves, if nothing else, right? Again, I see it more as like a means to an end, right? Like the reason I value preferences a lot is because it leads to hedonic utilitarianist results, I guess. It leads to like the maximization of that form of utility. I agree that we often prefer happiness and pleasure. I just hold that these are good because they are preferred. You say the preference is good because it increases pleasure. Yeah. Like, I don't think it would be the other way around. I don't think it would be, like, I don't think that pleasure is good because it increases preferences, right? Right? Like, preferences for the sake of preferences in a vacuum with no outcomes aren't good or bad necessarily, right? But it is an objective fact based on a certain level of intersubjective agreement that pleasure is morally good and that pain is morally bad. Because if we're creating a moral system, right, pleasure is preferable to suffering. I guess you could say that that is a preference, but it is the main preference, right? Any other preference that is not that is going to be secondary. Yeah, but I'm an anti-realist. Yeah. I guess that might be where we start. Maybe is, I don't know, what would be a better debate to do first? Because I feel like if we have like a completely different framework we've built off of, yeah, I don't know. Have you ever debated Sinthe on moral realism? I feel like that would be entertaining. You should debate Sinthe. I would be the moderator. Not yet. Oh my god, you totally should. Do it on my channel. You know what? Maybe I start hosting debates. Would be a shit show? Nah, I would not let it be a shit show, alright? Look, I know that you're a little fucking bottom bitch boy, and she would walk all over you, so, you know, as the moderator, I would have to protect you from that a little bit, and make sure that it's an even playing field. She would dom me so hard. Yeah, exactly. That's the reason that you would do bad. Is because you would see her as like a dominant figure that's making you subby. And that would be like it's like that would be like the main thing that you lose on. You calling others bottoms is the pot calling the kettle black? Nuh-uh. No, it's not. You're a bottom. Yeah, I don't know. But no, I'd be willing to moderate that. I mean, hell, do it on my channel, if nothing else, right? I don't see why not. You know, maybe what I could do is I could have like some sort of a modern day debate-esque live show where it's just like I have people, or like something like The Crucible, but like it's not run by a right-wing fascist loser. It's run by me instead. You know, maybe where people can like schedule debates on my channel. I think that'd be pretty cool, you know? What the fuck, Femyoz voice changed since I last watched? Hell yeah, it did. Or maybe you're just imagining things. Who knows? You never know for certain, right? It's hard to say. Who knows? But yeah, anyways, custard donut gif. I don't know why I just said gif. I always pronounce it gif. That's the correct pronunciation is gif. I guess because my mind was thinking food. So when I think food, I think Jif peanut butter. No way, you sound like a woman. No, let's go! Hell yeah! Smash like if I sound like a whammon. If I sound like a woman. Let's go. That's so based. Your mind is thinking about how much you want to get pregnant? Nuh-uh. That's not true. How could you say such a thing? I can't believe you would say that. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know. Oh my god. Yeah, that was... I need to debate Lord Pasta at some point. I feel like, that would probably be one of my most difficult debates. Because most people I've debated aren't really, like, that good at debate. With a few exceptions. Like, the best person I ever debated was Hunter Avalone. And I feel like I used, like, the simplest trick in the book to get him to the position I actually wanted. Right? Which is basically, present a position that's slightly more extreme than what I actually believe. Basically steelman that argument. And get him to concede some ground. But, yeah, I don't know. The position you actually want is bottom. My mind is thinking about how adorable you are and how kissable your cheeks are. Oh my... Stop it. No, they're not. I'm not adorable. I'm tough and edgy, okay? I'm like super like tough and I'm like a tough edgelord, okay? I don't know what you mean. Like I've said slurs on stream before, okay? I don't know why you would think that I'm like not a very super tough edgelord. I don't know. Anyways, where was I going with this? I have no idea. Literally fucking none. Oh my god. You're a cutie patootie. You know what you're doing with those armpits. What do you mean? What am I? What? I'm so confused. Hopefully 2024 is the year of Femyoz. Yeah, I hope so too. I don't know what I'm gonna do this year. Hopefully my channel blows up. It's statistically speaking, it's probably not going to, sadly, but we can only hope. I love how flustered you get when we tell you how cute you are. Well, I don't get that flustered, okay? Okay, maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, not too much. Your tummy is gonna blow up with a baby. I want to twirl your ass hair like a telephone cord. Okay. What the fuck? Thank you for sharing. What okay. What if I shave my ass hair? What the fuck? What did I just read? It's so bad. What is that? Cat emoji? Flashlight emoji? Oh boy. Oh no. Ling has the right idea. Yeah, so true. Shaving ass hair sounds like a bad time, TBH. Nah, not if you're good at it. Not if you're good at it. I just don't like any body hair on me. It makes me feel bad. I just want to have as little body hair as possible. Like, because body hair is kind of cringe. Honestly, I prefer being smooth as well. Yeah, I just want to be smooth, you know what I mean? Just so itchy afterwards. Okay, I've never gotten the itchy thing. Like, I've never gotten that. I just don't like the look or the feeling of having body hair or facial hair, period. Like, I've always hated it. It's fucking awful. Yeah, I don't know. You're a smooth and beautiful girl. Oh my god. I can't do this. I can't fucking do this. Okay, I'm sorry. Do you still go by any pronouns? Technically, yeah. I go by any pronouns, but I have a slight preference for she, her. I hate body hair too, but I'm such a hairy bastard that I've decided to just dwarf max instead of fighting it at this point. I mean, that's fair enough. See, that's the thing though, is body hair gives me dysphoria. It's getting impossible for you to deny that you're a bottom. Nuh-uh. Hello, Dimitro? Tarnavsky? I hope I pronounced your name right. You better believe I most certainly didn't. Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, oh my. How long has it been for you being on HRT? 8 months. 8 months now. Barely 8 months, but 8 months nonetheless. It was my 8-month HRT anniversary 2 days ago. As of this live stream. So yeah. June 2nd is the day I got HRT. My first day of estradiol. Yeah. You should debate my BF. He affirms all propositions. Oh dear. Trivialist. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. That would be interesting. That might actually be more interesting than a debate between me and you. The reason our debate would be interesting is because we'd be getting like into like the nitty-gritty details of stuff. The reason a debate with your boyfriend would be interesting is because we would have a completely different worldview where nothing corresponds. That would be interesting. My BF is the chaos to my order. Fair enough, I guess. But yeah, I'd be willing to debate your boyfriend at some point. You know, I think I might start doing more debates more often. I'm not gonna ever do call-ins again for obvious reasons, okay? I'm just not interested in random people showing up so that they can do the really funny bit where they say the N-word. Oh my god, that's... Oh, oops. I didn't mean to press that button. I meant to press this button. And this one, and this one. Sorry. But when they do the really funny joke where they say the Keemstar word, you know, as funny as that is, you know, got a little bit stale after a while. So, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. Sadly. I want to debate you about the fact that you're a bottom. Parentheses, I'm going to win because I'm objectively correct. Well, nuh-uh. That's not true. Ew, you debated an alleged PDF file. Look, I am willing to debate anyone in the free marketplace of ideas as long as they're a content creator. That's like the only standard I have now, is you have to basically be a content... Like, I have to know that you're not just some random spurg that has never done a debate before and just wants to say the N-word. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I'm only willing to debate content creator. I assume you won. Yeah, basically. You would be correct. She didn't even stick to her initial proposition that she agreed to before the debate. Like, as soon as we started the debate, she's like, actually, I am a utilitarian. I'm like, but that was the whole point of this debate, was that you said that you fucking weren't. So then we basically changed it to a different, to me arguing in favor of specifically hedonic utilitarianism and her arguing against it. And, yeah, she just kept going back and forth between different positions. Yeah, I don't know. I'll watch whatever debate as long as I get to see her beautiful face. Oh, well, thank you. Okay, but this is the other thing, is I don't know, like, I want to get, like, a wider audience as well. Not, like, I don't know, like, wider in the sense that, like, they're interested in different things, like debate, commentary, whatever, but they're all interested in me. Now, the reasons why they're interested in me can vary. You know, maybe they just think I'm physically attractive. Maybe they like my analysis, right? They like my mode of analysis. Maybe it's just something they enjoy listening to in the background. Maybe, you know, that goes into the podcast thing. Maybe they just like hearing what I have to say. You know, I offer an interesting perspective. Maybe I'm just entertaining, right? Maybe it's just I'm fun to watch. Maybe it has something to do with me being right about everything 24/7, you know? I guess my channel is a great place to formulate opinions after all. I like to analyze the ways I can get you pregnant. God damn. Common Femyoz W, hell yeah. Let's go. So true. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I sort of... Yeah, I don't know. I think I did well in the debate, kind of. A lot of the time, it just felt like we were talking past each other. And in situations like that, it's like, unless you already, like, the issue is, and how I think I could have done better, perhaps, would be debating for the sake of getting the audience to agree with me as well. I mean, you guys already all fucking agree with me, right? But, like, somebody that's never watched me before might see that debate, and they don't have like a vested interest in philosophy or ethics. It's like their analysis of it is like super surface level. Like they're not gonna they'll probably know that I won the debate, but like they won't watch that and be like, oh yeah, like Foodshops got completely destroyed, right? Because they might not fully understand why her position is incoherent. Femyoz W, the W stands for horror. Oh my god. It's so true. So true. But yeah, I think that, like, if I debate Foodshops again, we need to, like, establish some sort of initial proposition, right? Like, beforehand, like, before she's in a voice chat and then changes it last minute. Because I will have to fucking make sure that she actually agrees with the proposition she lays out. Because if she doesn't, it's like, well, then I just did all this preparation against potential arguments that are going to be made for nothing. I argued against a position that wasn't held. Hold on, one second. Sorry, that was a bit of a distraction. Where was I going with this? Genuinely forgot. Stream unless there's something important being said to me outside my door. But yeah, anyways. You destroy others in debates, but you like getting destroyed in the bedroom. Maybe. Maybe. That could be the case. Who knows? Potentially, maybe, hypothetically. There's a chance that I enjoy that. Maybe, potentially, you know. It's entirely possible, you know. Yeah. I don't know. Oh boy. I don't think I destroyed her as much as Sinthe did in the veganism debate, though. Like, we could watch part of it. Also, thank you, Batal Crafter, for the $10. You beautiful fucking bastard. Stream W indeed. Thank you so much for the donation. You absolute fucking legend. Hell yeah. But yeah, anyways, you're a smoking hot babe. Is that so? Yeah, anyways. Oh my god. Hold on. Let's see here. Foodshops Sinthe. Okay. And this was uploaded to Foodshops channel, I think. But she got destroyed. Hold on. Let me... Nope, that's... Yep. Okay, I found it. Here we go. Let's... Okay.
This is gonna be so scuffed, guys. This is gonna be so scuffed.
Really, I'm trying to pull teeth. I'm trying to pull teeth from a fucking downy right now, and you keep trying to smack me around. Elliot, answer my question. It's not that complicated.
Truly the intro of all time. Oh my god.
I'm begging you to answer my fucking question.
And my answer is a rejection of your hypothetical.
That's not how.
This is in the intro, by the way. This is her proudest moment, is refusing to engage in a hypothetical. I swear to fucking god. Oh my god.
Hypotheticals work.
Why can't I reject your hypothetical?
If you didn't have breakfast this morning, how would you feel, Foodshops?
Exactly. That's a hypothetical that is useless, just like the useless.
You can't even answer that with the.
There are two correct answers to the breakfast thing, by the way, depending on whether or not you normally eat breakfast. So I don't eat breakfast, right? So my answer would be, well, I would feel the same because I don't ever eat breakfast. However, if I were to eat breakfast, I would feel especially full because that would be more food than usual, right? So that would be one instance of a correct answer. The other is I would feel full because I had food. I would feel hungry because normally I have breakfast and I didn't. The other answer would be, maybe I probably wouldn't notice it by the end of the day because I would have had a larger lunch, right? There's plenty of correct answers you can give. There are only a few incorrect answers that you can give. One of them is, well, but I did eat breakfast, not understanding that it's a hypothetical. The other one is refusing to engage in the hypothetical. That's the only way you can fuck it up.
Hello?
Hello, what's up?
Hey, plant consumer, nice. Sinthe.
I was way too stoned to be listening to that fucking music you were playing on stream. I was like half asleep. I had no idea what was going on. That was crazy.
What time is it over there?
Oh, it's 11 where I am.
It's 11? Okay, alright.
Sinthe is always stoned these days.
It's been a while since we talked, I think.
I think so, yeah, maybe like a couple months or so.
Yeah. I think the last time you were in here, it was like probably for some panel or something, I don't know, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, I think it might be the transmedicalism panel, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
This is also why I recommend, just for the sake of content, talk with food shops for a little bit before the debate, like in a VC. Food shops actually called me early, before the debate was scheduled, in the group chat with Sinthe, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll join. We'll just wait for Sinthe, and then eventually I was like, okay, whatever. We'll just start the debate. But yeah, it's the reason I say this is you get all the random bullshit out of the way. It's like, okay, it's a nice conversation to have, but it's not the best for stream.
That was a long time ago. Yeah. Okay. Hope you're doing well. How's life?
It's going pretty good. Just chilling.
Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, so I wanted to call you in here because I actually sort of want to parse out your ideas for veganism and sort of want to write them down as well. I have some questions. I was wondering if it was possible for you to answer.
Now, something that's going to be interesting is here she says she has questions, but in DMs with Sinthe, she agreed to a debate specifically, right? So this is just going to be another example, and it's later on in this, and I don't think we're going to get that far, where it's like, oh, well, this wasn't meant to be a debate. It was just, a civil discussion or some shit like that. And it's like, okay, but you agreed to one thing in DMs and then completely changed it at the last second, right? I feel like that's something that Foodshops does that sort of pisses people off, right? Myself included. I was a little annoyed by that, right? It's like if you agree to one thing, or I think that you're arguing against utilitarianism and I make that clear that I'm arguing in favor of it, and then you don't clarify your position, it's like, okay, that's a little bit shitty, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so I guess for the first one, can you do you know, okay, I'm actually sort of curious, do you know where you being a vegan comes from? Did you like turn into a vegan at some point, or?
Oh, you're asking? Yeah, I wasn't born a vegan. I did move my position to veganism like a couple of years ago.
Okay. And how did that happen for you?
I'd make you feel full with a baby. Thanks, Felix Chaplin.
I got more interested in philosophy and started thinking more about like ethical systems and how to make mine consistent, and if ethics were based in something real or something subjective, and that just made me think more about applied ethics broadly.
Okay, I see. So I guess a question I have is like so I already know some arguments behind veganism as well. And I already kind of concede that if you have to, veganism is kind of morally superior under some systems.
This is what I mean, where it's like, she'll say that she's going to do a veganism debate with a vegan, and then she'll immediately, before the debate even starts, concede the position. In like the first 5 oh yeah, let's do a veganism debate to a vegan. And then when she's in the VC with the vegan and the debate starts, she's like, oh yeah, by the way, I actually think veganism is morally superior, by the way, just so you're aware. You know, maybe that'll be like our main source of disagreement. It's like, seriously, why? Why are you like this?
Then, you know, not being a vegan, obviously.
Do you concede that it's morally superior under your system, or do you?
Oh, no.
You got one where it's not.
Well, it's more like, okay, if we deem, you know, in terms of like suffering, right? If you want to reduce suffering, then...
If you want to reduce suffering... I thought you weren't a hedonic utilitarian. Why are you applying the standard now? What the fuck? I thought you were against this.
Yeah, veganism is like superior, right?
Well, is that your position? Do you want to reduce suffering?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, right? So
you're not. Oh my god.
So that's the thing. I think that
I think the main problem with her doing debates is she doesn't even know what her fucking position is.
I think that that's the thing that I sort of want to parse out, because I have some questions where I'm just sort of confused. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So for the first one, I guess, where do you draw the line between, you know, so do you consider animals to be on the same moral equivalence as humans?
I don't know what you mean by that. What do
like
you mean by
same moral consideration.
Per animal, no. It would be based on the extent to which they experience consciousness. There's like a hierarchy, right? So it would be the case that like if you're a human, you experience more consciousness than the average dog, which experiences more consciousness than the average rat, which experiences more consciousness than the average mosquito, right? Like that would be sort of like the hierarchy, right? So like, let's say that, yeah, you sort of get the point, right?
Are they on the same moral consideration? I mean, it doesn't really clear it up for me. But by consideration, you mean
like the same as like a human,
like
yeah.
with one unit of suffering counts for less than one than the other. Like, no, I don't think that. I just think humans have more of a capacity to suffer and more of a capacity to feel pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I care more about humans because of the fact that we do have more suffering and pleasure.
Okay, so for you want to reduce specifically animal suffering, right? Not like plant suffering or anything, right?
If plants could suffer, I'd want to reduce their suffering too.
Okay.
They just can't, because, you know, they don't have like any of the parts for that. Like, they don't have nociceptors, they don't have brains, they don't have things that emulate brains like lobsters do.
Is that where you draw the line then, I guess?
At capacity, it's not even drawing a line. It's just like, if you don't have the capacity to suffer, then just obviously you can't have any impact on suffering. I don't have it like a line around like not caring about plant suffering or something. It's just that plants just happen to not suffer.
Okay. Because the way I think about it is like, so for example, the example that I came up with is like bacteria, right? So if bacteria, I don't think bacteria is considered as like animal or anything like that. So for example, they don't,
it's not.
Yeah, I know. So for example, right? Something as simple as like a jellyfish, right? You wouldn't eat a jellyfish.
I wouldn't eat a jellyfish. I'd probably be okay with eating a jellyfish.
Oh, okay. So you're okay with eating a jellyfish. Okay. Would you be okay with eating fish?
No.
Okay, is it because fish have like pain nerve endings?
No, it's because my credence that fish feel pain is much larger than it is for jellyfish. So like, even though I think it's like maybe a 30% chance that fish feel pain, that's sufficient for me to be like, okay, so there's like a 30% chance that I'm causing something excruciating suffering.
I think it would also depend on like the type of fish, right? Like not all fish are going to be equal. Some of them are going to have more of a potential capacity to experience pain, right? I mean, we don't know for sure. It's kind of hard to say.
And then like there's the 70% chance that I'm not doing that I'm gaining like a really mild pleasure. Like, it is clearly the case that like that 30% chance of something very, very bad happening is like way, way worse than the slight gain I get from having fish as opposed to like a vegan plant-based alternative.
Okay, I see. Do you so would you rank like, because some things might have more, you know, capacity and percentages to feel pain than other things, right?
Yeah,
would
sure.
you rank them on a hierarchy of priority?
I know I certainly do, yeah.
Priorities then?
Yeah, I mean,
Hell
of
yeah.
course I do. Like, if somebody was
Based.
about to die in 10 minutes, I wouldn't care about them as much as I care about somebody who's like like I don't know, like a fucking like 19-year-old who's just got out of school and is like dedicated to good causes. Like, obviously, I'd care more about that 19-year-old than I would about the fucking the old man who's like 3 seconds away from death.
Okay, so is it going to be like more about the capacity to feel further like consciousness, I guess? Is that like your argument?
Yeah, sure. We can. That's like a rough way to describe it.
Okay. So like the way I sort of think of things is like if I have like a human who is in dire distress and then I need to sacrifice a deer in order to save the human, I would probably do so. Would you do so?
Yes, obviously she would do so. Again, this is what I mean when I say that even if you're talking in like the most simple terms possible and she's agreeing with you, she still doesn't understand your position. If she understood Synthe's position at this point, she wouldn't be asking this. She would already know that the answer is yes, because that's what the position entails. See, this disconnect is exactly what I mean when I say that like this is really frustrating in a debate, right? And like in the context of a debate, like that's extremely annoying, right? It's like I already explained my position. Like obviously, if I believe that humans experience more consciousness than other species, then yes, one person is going to be worth more than one deer. That is the logical conclusion to that, right? It feels less like food shops, you know. I guess it just feels like she makes up her position on the spot. Like she doesn't have much of a position. She just sort of has like a vibe or like an idea in her mind of what she believes, but it's not like actually like an actual belief system. It's more like a sort of gut feeling, and then she sort of just like arbitrarily builds something around her intuition or her gut feeling, but that's not like a moral argument. And I think that's sort of like the root of the issue, right?
Sacrifice the deer in order to save the human? Yep. I mean, it depends on the person, but yeah, in general, I probably would.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Like, I mean, like, yeah, it would probably depend on the person for anybody who's like just thinking about the problem for a bit. Like, if it was Hitler, you wouldn't, right? Obviously, it'd be better.
Well, you would rather try to kill
like,
Hitler, right? Yeah.
Well, we would be talking about like the average person in terms of like the you know, like they produce the average amount of utility in society, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, but there are some people who you wouldn't want
And the average deer, right?
to kill, but it still would be the case that like them dying would not be that big of a deal in like a car crash or something. Like people who are just kind of shitty, but not so shitty that it justify like capital punishment or something.
Okay.
Like most shitty people, right? Like if a person was like a child molester or something, right? That person is probably be like unjustified to execute them. But like letting them die or something, maybe it's like more plausible.
Okay. So okay, that's interesting. I don't think this is like the mainstream vegan view, is it?
It's pretty mainstream. It's the same view as Peter Singer, which is like probably the most mainstream as it gets. I mean,
So-
it's not like
okay.
maybe you could say it's not like it is the mainstream, but it's not like the fucking dumb bottom of the barrel vegan stuff. If that's
Mhm.
true. It's in terms of like vegans who are very very relevant in the vegan sphere. Like honestly the only one I can think of is Peter Singer, who's like equivalent to him. So I feel like it's pretty mainstream.
Okay. And basically, you guys both agree that it's worth it to sacrifice like a deer to save.
In general,
Yeah. Okay. All right. What's for something such as like money, right? I know that right now, at the very least, it is hard to buy vegan foods because when I go to a store, right, like they're more.
This is the other thing I wanted to touch on. There's like no preparation here, right? Like she didn't do any research into this. She just sort of presupposes that vegan food is super expensive because it feels correct, right? There's not like an actual like well thought out position here. It's just it's basically just hearsay. She probably heard somebody else say something like that, or maybe that exactly, maybe something similar to that. Who fucking knows? But that's not what opinions should be based off of, right? It shouldn't just be like this is probably true, like, you know, like it's it's like, you know, it's probably more expensive, I think, because, you know, yeah, but it's like that's not the case, right?
Expensive
No,
considerably,
that's
right?
definitely no. I mean, if you want to buy food that's like branded as vegan, like usually that's because it's an alternative food, right? It's not
Right.
like a thing like a vegan food that you actually need. It's just some like a novelty, like vegan beef or vegan chicken or vegan milk, like shit like that. But most food is like most of the food you eat is probably already vegan, right? You're not like eating like just fucking meat. You also eat vegetables. You also eat fruits, right? Every time you have like a stick of broccoli, you're having something vegan. If you want to just hit your macros, if that's all you care about, and that's like the point of your diet is just macronutrients. I don't really care about the pleasure of it. The cheapest possible fucking diet that does that is a vegan diet. So it's beans and rice. That's it. Which is
This is true, right? Again, this is what I mean when I say that like Foodshops just doesn't prepare for debates. Like she would know this going into it, and she'd have some sort of a counter argument, right? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she agreed to having a debate, right? With Sinthe on that, and it ends up getting heated. I do recommend watching it. It is quite entertaining. I'm not gonna watch the entire thing. I don't have much to say. I mean, I basically just agree with Sinthe basically the entire time. Because she's more correct and makes better arguments. But I think I just wanted to illustrate like that as an example. Like even before it got heated, like there are issues with how Foodshops debates, or I guess anyways, my goodness. Check DMs after stream. Okay, if you insist. Oh my god. Anyways, I know I didn't like constantly pause to like give my position or whatever. But that was because the point wasn't a matter of whether or not somebody is saying something correct or incorrect, right? Like that wasn't the point I was trying to make. It was more along the lines of, oh, this is how Foodshop sort of conducts herself and the issues I have with her debate strategy, quote unquote, right? And you have to show longer, so like you have to let the video play for that to work, I guess. Otherwise, you sort of forget about important details or context or whatever. I think I'm gonna end stream. Yeah. Unless you guys want me to keep streaming for a little bit longer. I don't know. It's kind of late. I'm getting tired. I'm eepy, okay? I'm sorry. I'm getting eepy. But yeah. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed. EP girl, yeah. I need to stream more, yeah. Maybe we should stream at the same time when we have our utilitarianism debate. BF takes up all my time, so real. Yeah. No, you gotta have your BF on at some point. If he's a trivialist, he could debate me. Yeah, I don't know. I want to do more debates with people. Again, I've sort of taken a break, and I've come back. I will say, maybe on special occasions, if the viewers really want it, I might do call-in debates occasionally, just as a special occasion. Just because why not, right? I'm not going to do that every stream. But on special occasions, I might have to do that. So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know, I feel like there almost has to be some sort of barrier to entry, right? If there's not, it's just, oh, here's some random spurg saying the N-word. Oh, comedy gold. Oh, so funny. It's funny because it's the N-word. You're not supposed to say that, silly goose. That's where the comedy is. But yeah. Oh my god, I'm like all spacey. Oof. Like, just like, I'm like spacing out. I think my Adderall's wearing off. That's probably why. It's been worn off. It's okay. I'm still good at saying words, okay? Don't worry, guys. I can still say words. There are words coming out of my mouth right now. Oh my god. That's literally fucking crazy, chat. Oh my god, chat. Can you guys believe that there are literally words coming out of my mouth right now? Oh my god. Literally fucking insane. Yeah, I don't know. I also sort of want to debate food shops and some other stuff, potentially maybe in the future, who knows. I don't know if we're there yet, though. We'll have to, like, agree to some sort of proposition first. Imagine if I did Adderall, maybe then I could debate Sinthe. Yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not... I mean, I don't know. Look, on Adderall, I'm, like, way better at debate, I will say. I only had my morning Adderall and not my afternoon Adderall today. So, it was probably already starting to wear off. Like, before/during the debate. But, like, when I'm hyperfixated, when I have that fucking sweet Adderall hyperfixation feeling, like, oh my god. I am an unstoppable force at debating people in the free marketplace of ideas. I'm crazy good. Not really crazy good, but, like, I'm, like, better than, like, I'm better than I normally would be, you know? That's what I mean. Like, by a lot. I don't know. Who fucking... I don't know. Yeah, maybe I do a debate bro tier list of V2. Add some people. See, I don't know where I even am. Like, it's so dependent on, like, the subject matter and, like, who I'm debating and, like, how I'm doing on that particular day and how much I prepared. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, well, I guess. Man. Yeah, I had, like, a whole dialogue tree. I guess I can share the dialogue tree with you guys in chat. So I wrote this stuff down, okay? So before I end stream, I guess I'll just read what I had written down as, like, notes for myself on how to approach the debate. I think I was wrong, but this was what I wrote in terms of, like, best case scenario, in terms of, like, her defending her proposition, which at the time I thought was going to be her arguing against utilitarianism. So I wrote, strategy she's going to take. She knows my weakness is biting bullets for the sake of consistency and that I have bad optics. Her weakness, however, is that her entire worldview is based on intuition. This second part is true, by the way. It is very intuition-based. Again, that's why she would randomly assert something, depending on how she felt, right? Oh yeah, health is the metric I use here for no reason other than health is good because it's good. And the objective metric I use here for no apparent reason other than I intuitively feel like it's correct is this other thing. And it's like, okay. My strategy will be to pin her on things like, on her saying things like, quote, most people are uncomfortable with this, unquote. She did something kind of similar. I wrote this down thinking she was going to do this. She's going to do the grape argument, as I like to call it, that is only justified by utilitarianism in a vacuum. She's going to do the killing homeless people argument. She never did that. Some other dog shit talking points she learned from other people, right? That's what I thought was going to happen. So, for the question of, is it okay to kill homeless people under utilitarianism? My answer is the following. No, because unless they explicitly consent to being euthanized, there is no way to know that this will decrease suffering. This would increase the amount of fear and anxiety surrounding being poor. If your income doesn't reach a certain threshold, You know you will die. The only way to maximize utility for homeless people would be to improve their material conditions that cause them suffering in the first place. Their suffering is contingent upon whether or not they suffer from poor material conditions, not whether or not they are alive. Another thing I wrote, because I believed that her proposition had to do with utilitarianism as a whole, is if the proposition has to do with utilitarianism as a whole, this would be all-inclusive of different versions of utilitarianism. So for instance, the grape example would be directly accounted for by rule utilitarianism, and the mathematician genius who spends his entire day counting blades of grass would be accounted for directly by truth utilitarianism. I could simply make the argument that Foodshops is arguing in favor of different forms of utilitarianism. Ironically, that's what she actually tried doing, funnily enough, but that's not like something you would want to do on purpose. So interesting how that worked out. Yeah. Anyways, I could simply make the argument that Foodshops is arguing in favor of various different forms of utilitarianism, depending on where she intuitively believes the most utility resides. This is what she did, by the way. So, in terms of my dialogue tree, or sorry, no, wrong. In terms of Foodshops' dialogue tree, at least what I expected, based on things she had said prior. So I guessed that Foodshops was going to ask, is it okay to grape somebody if you know for certain they won't be awake to experience it? And then my response would be, in a vacuum with only you and that other person, yes, if you're absolutely certain that they won't be harmed by it, but we don't live in a vacuum with only you and that other person. We live in the real world where allowing people to commit grape would have negative consequences. Not to mention the fact that you don't actually know they wouldn't be harmed by it ahead of time, so the predicted utility would be a net negative. Living in a world where you know you could get graped in your sleep at any time and that the other person wouldn't get caught will increase overall anxiety and decrease utility without increasing the experience of getting graped. So, another Foodshops question that I thought I might have had to have addressed, I didn't, but there was a chance I did, is what if there is a mathematician genius who spends his days counting blades of grass because he has a preference for doing so? So I responded, or I would have responded by saying, the goal of utilitarianism is not to maximize utility for a single individual. That would be egoism. And it seems to be the case that this individual wasting their potential would not maximize utility in this example, as there is far greater potential to maximize far more utility with their mathematical discoveries they could make if they weren't counting blades of grass all day. Your example here would also be an argument in favor of truth utilitarianism, where the axiom is that having an accurate understanding of the world and pursuing truth ought to be maximized, which is by definition a form of utilitarianism, the thing you're supposed to be arguing against. Again, she ended up conceding right away within the first 2 seconds because she didn't want to argue against utilitarianism because it's just that good, but I thought she was going to argue against it, like she said she would. But yeah, that's how I would have responded to that. And then another Foodshops question I expected here is, wouldn't you be maximizing utility by killing all homeless people by minimizing their human suffering? This would be specific to hedonic utilitarianism as well, so I'm surprised she didn't ask this. So the response I wrote down in anticipation is, no, the way you would maximize utility of homeless people would be to improve their material conditions. Even if we lived in a world where we somehow had the capacity to kill all homeless people, but not the capacity to improve their material conditions, killing the homeless people still wouldn't necessarily be entailed by utilitarianism, because if we make it moral to kill homeless people, all homeless people that don't want to die will suffer from having to protect their lives and hiding from the force that is trying to kill them. This would also increase the amount of fear and anxiety surrounding being poor. You know that if your income doesn't reach a certain threshold next month, you will die. If you can't pay off your debt, you will die. This is not the world most people want to live in. The last thing is something she mentioned, but I wish we talked about it more, is, quote, hedonism is refuted by the pleasure machine. If there was a Goon Machine, people would be uncomfortable with that, unquote. This is something Foodshop said verbatim. And my response to this would simply be, so you believe the morality of the Gooning Machine is contingent upon whether or not people are comfortable with it. I really wish we had gone over that more. I should have really honed in on that. Before we ended the debate, I should have brought it back to the Goon Machine. And then the last one is also one that she brought up is, what if you could cheat on your partner knowing for certain you could get away with it with no STDs or negative consequences? I guess she asked like the reverse version of that, like, how would you feel about getting cheated on? But like similar concept, right? So my response that I wrote down ahead of time is, this would almost always negatively impact the person doing the cheating, which would also have a negative impact on the relationship. Usually if someone cheats on their partner, there are also underlying issues with the relationship that ought to be addressed. Proper communication in relationships is something that maximizes utility, and cheating on your partner would be an example of not properly communicating with your partner, thus decreasing utility in the relationship. Now, for the Femyoz dialogue tree. Here's what I wrote down. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you some qualifying questions. None of these are meant to be a gotcha. It is simply to get a better understanding of your worldview so that I don't accidentally argue against a position you don't hold. Firstly, what do you base your morality and ethics off of? And then I would wait for a response, and then I would ask, why is your system of morality/ethics reasonable? And then obviously, I'd get some sort of response. Second question, are you a moral relativist, a moral universalist, or are you agnostic on the position, right? It's the second question I asked. And then if she responds relativist, I ask, oh, and what are your morals relative to? If she says universalist, I say, okay, good, so we're on the same page in that regard. Now, the first question, or line of questioning. 1. You brought up the point that according to utilitarianism, it would be preferable to kill all homeless people to prevent them from suffering. I've already explained why this premise is flawed, / I'm willing to explain why this premise is flawed. But first, and I promise this is related, you believe that killing innocent people is wrong, correct? And then obviously she would say, yes, I would I would hope. And why is it wrong to kill innocent people? And I would respond, or wait for a response. Maybe we could go from there. And then an additional question is, do you believe that there are any circumstances in the real world in which it would be okay to kill an innocent person? So yes, under what circumstances would that be the case? That's where we went. No. What if someone was permanently paralyzed from head to toe? And then I would expect that the answer to be, then that would be different, and then I would ask why that would be different. Or the other answer would be, no, that's still wrong. And then I would just basically ask, okay, well, what if they consented, right? And then yes, so if by that point she's going to say yes, right? So if she says yes, then you agree that there are at least some real-world circumstances in which killing an innocent person would be morally permissible, while also agreeing that killing innocent people is not morally permissible in general, correct? And then if she were to say no, I would say, that's an insane bullet to bite. You seriously believe that if I'm permanently paralyzed, I should be forced to live a miserable life against my will. Who does this benefit, right? So that's sort of the first line of questioning to start out with. Again, this wasn't something I felt the need to strictly adhere to, right? The second question was, which I never got around to, is I'm going to ask you the most obvious question that's fundamental to utilitarianism. I'm sure you're familiar with the trolley problem. If five people are tied to the train tracks and they're about to get hit by a train, but there's a lever you can pull that will make the train turn onto a different set of train tracks, do you pull the lever? Obviously, she never ended up arguing against utilitarianism. I thought she would, so this was an important point. Yes. So if the response is yes, I would say, and why would you pull the lever? And I would assume so that it kills less people. And why would killing less people be a good thing? If the answer is no, I would ask, no, you would rather have 5 people die instead of just 1? This is clearly a net harm here compared to the alternative option. And then if she responds, I refuse the hypothetical, I would simply ask, how can you claim to easily refute utilitarianism when you can't even engage with the most basic utilitarian concept? And the second thing I guess I ask is the reason it's good to pull the lever is because ultimately it maximizes human well-being. Now, what if I told you there was an entire ethical system built around this idea, right? So that was if that was sort of where I would have gone in the case of her trying to argue against utilitarianism, right? So I had all this shit written down. We only got around to some of it. And then as for the I guess I would call it the other dialogue tree I want to briefly go over is the moral objectivist dialogue tree, or the moral realist dialogue tree, depending on how specific you want to get, right? And here's like the idea behind it, right? Like I thought she was going to make an explicitly morally relativistic argument or an anti-realist argument, and that she would double down on it, or say that morality is subjective to an extent, right? So, I guess I actually did go over a lot of this, right? So, I wouldn't need to read all of it, right? Because, yeah, so it's like it starts out with like the intersubjective thing, right? Like, yeah, if there's like enough intersubjective agreement, then it's going to be the case that it's objective. But she just ended up agreeing to that, right? So, yeah, one analogy you can use that I like is the color analogy, right? So I could say, because my camera's on, right? For those of you who don't know, who are listening to it as a podcast, I'm holding up a green object. So I could do this. Do you believe that this is do you believe that it is an objective fact that this is green? The answer, of course, being yes, to which I would ask, how do you know? Does it perhaps have something to do with some sort of intersubjective agreement on rough lines where we distinguish between colors, rough lines we draw? And then if the answer was somehow no, I would have just said, so you think I would be just as correct if I were to say, actually, this is red because that's my subjective opinion, right? And then I would explain on how there are like only rough boundaries instead of definitive clear-cut ones between colors, because there's, say, for instance, less intersubjective agreement on whether or not something would be categorized as, say, bright orange or dark yellow, thus making the difference between the two subjective, whereas the difference between green and red would be objective, right? The only symmetry breaker, of course, being intersubjective agreement. So that was something that I might have gone down. I think that that's like a really good argument for like objective morality, right? Because you then draw the comparison, right? Because it would be analogous to pleasure/pain also being like something intersubjectively agreed upon, right? So that would be like the main analogy, right? That's why it's analogous. And then, yeah, I had like an entire dialogue tree for like the no, this is subjective, insane bullet to bite, just for the sake of writing it. It's like, okay, I'm not going to read it all out because I think you get the point, but yeah, anyways, I think that's everything I wanted to go over. If you enjoyed this epic live stream, feel free to let me know by smashing like and subscribing if you want to see more content. If you really like it, maybe donate with the Streamlabs link. That being said, this is the end of the stream. If you enjoyed it, or I already said that. I already said what to do if you enjoy it. You better do that. Yeah, anyways, I will see you all in the next one. Good. Bye. Liked already? So based. That is so based. Based and red pilled. But yeah, anyways, I will see you all in the next one. Unless I die in a tragic house fire, of course.